You're listening to For the Republic, a love letter to Star Wars animation.
Hello there.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to our Andor recaps here on For the Republic, a love letter to Star Wars animation. It is Andrew and Donovan back here once again to talk about the third arc of Andor Season 2. These episodes titled Messenger, Who Are You, and Welcome to the Rebellion. And nothing of note really happened in these episodes at all. So
nothing historical.
Too long.
Nothing like of major notes in the Star Wars canon like took place in these episodes at all, Andrew.
Oh boy, nothing. Did it. Yeah, these were just, oh my God, I can't even put it into words. Well, bad thing that we're doing a podcast then, but we will try our damnedest to talk about these Ghorman Massacre episodes because, I mean, they're three excellent episodes. One is my favorite of the series, and one is damn near close, but they're all three are just excellent. So we're going to highlight all three of those, go over what happened on Ghorman, and relive the pain, because a lot of stuff happened. If you're watching on video and you can tell by our names, you know, there is some emotional damage, a lot of emotional damage that happened in these episodes.
Was there?
I'd just real quickly like to apologize for this one coming out a bit later. We are hopefully this is coming to you before the actual finale of Andor airs. We will see. We had a lot of scheduling conflicts and some stuff came up during the weekend, so we're good to go now. I'm a little bit under the weather, but I got these things with me, so if you see me get off camera for a second, I have to turn my camera off. It's because I'm either having a sneezing or a coughing fit, but, you know, that's what tissues are for.
You're prepared, like Cassian.
I am prepared. I have friends everywhere, some might say. But speaking of friends everywhere, some friends that we have are inducted into what we like to call the Jedi Archives.
Possible. Perhaps the archives are incomplete.
This is, if you're new here, our podcast Hall of Fame. Essentially, we each nominate something related to Star Wars every week, and then after the episode drops, we put it up to a fan poll on our social media where you guys can vote on what goes in every week. This week we have a little bit of an unprecedented situation because for the first time in the history of this show, or at least since we started doing this segment, we tied. We have a dead tie in the poll between our two nominations. Sadly, Connor's two-time nominee once again garnered no votes. So what we're going to do is we're literally going to put it up to chance. So we are going, hold on a second. We're literally going to spin the wheel.
Oh, here we go.
Goes in, is it going to be my nomination of the Delegation of 2000 or Donovan's nomination of Pinewood Studios? The suspense is killing me. I think that's you.
I think it might be me.
Pinewood Studios is our newest inductee into the Jedi Archive. So by hook or by crook, Don gets the win this week. So what do you have in store for us this week? Is it pain or is it something else this week?
Well, we're going to talk about a lot of pain here, and I was kind of coming up short really for my nominees, but then I just kind of thought, you know what, screw it, I'm putting him in K2SO.
K2SO.
Yes. You know, we'll talk about it later, but for now I'll just say my dude is back, and it was just amazing to, even if it was a brief moment, just getting our dude back, our favorite sassy droid back in some Star Wars was great.
Yeah, we were like, oh, are they going to, you know, make us wait until the last arc for K2? And they were like, no, we're going to give him to you at the very last second of the third arc. But we got him, and I know there were some differences in his introduction that differed from canon or from previously established canon, which we can talk about later. But I thought it was a very well done scene. Obviously, we'll get into that during the actual episode talk. But K2 is a great nomination. I was thinking of something related to these episodes. I was thinking of a scene, and also of a line as well. But I'm gonna go something different because something was announced last week. An upcoming book that I am very excited about, a return of a certain character. I'm nominating Finn into the Jedi Archives this week.
This is a good one.
We can real quickly talk about this. They announced,
yes,
it came out that there's going to be a YA novel post Episode 9, focusing on Finn and Janna. I believe it's called the Last something?
The Last Order, I think it's
The Last Order. I was like, is it the Last Ones? I'm like,
that
no,
sounds like a YA novel.
I know it does.
Yes.
The Last Order, and I think it's going to be about them trying to find or coming to terms with their past of being, brainwashed child soldiers, and hopefully this is like the hints of the Stormtrooper Rebellion storyline that a lot of people really wanted them to do with Finn in Episode 9.
I hope so, man.
Here.
Yeah,
but I'm excited for post Rise of Skywalker content. I'm excited to see Finn again. We're getting 2 Finn stories this year because he is also going to be in that Tales of the whatever it is this year with the spooky monster thing that Kevin Scott's writing about. Rey and Finn are having their own story.
I keep forgetting about those. I messaged you on Twitter earlier. I've seen the bit Tarkin's final moments from the Tales of the Death Star comic.
Zombie Cassian and Zombie Krennic and Zombie Generoso.
I need to read that. As a professional Tarkin hater, that shit was catnip to me. I need to read that book.
Yeah, no, that I saw them and was like, I've ignored these stories. I should probably check them out. But I'm just excited for this book. I'm excited to see Finn again. Hopefully, fingers crossed, it's not the last time we see him soon. Maybe in a certain new Jedi Order movie. But I'm just excited to see my dude again and give more love to his story. So those are our nominations this week. So you can, after this episode drops, I will put up a poll and you guys can decide if it's going to be K2SO or if it's going to be Finn going in to the archives this week. You guys can decide, and we will see who is our inductee this week. You've had a lot of luck in the past with droids. Like, I know you put SM-33 in there, so you might have this one. Concerning it's very timely, but I was this close to nominating a scene from the 8th episode that I've talked about on social media at this point.
Finn is a strong pick. He has a huge fandom. I'm a Finn fan, so I feel like this is going to be a close one, dude.
And always much love to John Boyega, as always. But let's get into these episodes. Like I alluded to a bit earlier, a lot of the focus has been on the 8th and the 9th episode. But this first episode, Messenger, was also very, very good. It had a lot of really good scenes. And we got a really good scene between Cassian and this Force healer that I really loved and kind of seemed to set the table for where Bix's character ends up going in the 9th episode. But we also got some juicy stuff on Ghorman, and we got introduced to a shitty new Imperial, which I always love those. And we got a lot of good stuff in this episode. So,
are you referring to Captain Kaido, Andrew?
I am referring to Captain Kaido.
Well, here's the thing about Captain Kaido. The minute he showed up, I kind of was like, I know this guy from somewhere. Where do I know this guy? Like, I've got to have seen him somewhere. And it turns out, I did actually know him. I think I have seen him somewhere. So I'm just ripping the Band-Aid off right now. We're doing
Get it out of the way right now.
We're doing another Who Watch since you brought him up. So, I'm going to pull up my notes here, but it turns out, yes, Captain Kaido's actor was in Doctor Who. The actor's name is Jonjo O'Neill. He's an Irish actor. He appeared in the 50th anniversary special episode of Doctor Who called The Day of the Doctor, which teamed up like David Tennant's 10th Doctor with Matt Smith's 11th Doctor. It was a huge, massive event over here in the UK. And he played like a UNIT scientist. UNIT is basically Doctor Who's version of S.H.I.E.L.D. And it's like a very brief role, but memorable enough. Another show he was in was also Bad Sisters. He played like the husband of one of the main like characters of that, and I have to shout out Bad Sisters whenever I get the opportunity to do so. It's on Apple TV Plus. It's an excellent show, both like funny and dark in equal measure. You know, anyone who hasn't seen it, definitely watch at least the first season. But there is also another actor who was in Doctor Who as well, and that is Tony May, who plays Sergeant Bloy, the look lively drill sergeant fellow who like brings all those lovely new recruits into Ghorman.
There's not a man in this group.
Exactly. He played the bodyguard of a villain in the Doctor Who episode Thin Ice, which was an episode from Peter Capaldi's final season, where he goes back to like Victorian times, I believe. And it is notable because it's the episode. Doctor Who fans refer to it as the episode where the Doctor punches a racist. Yes. Definitely a reason to check that out. If you want to see Peter Capaldi like deck a racist in the face, then yeah, definitely give that episode a watch.
I might have to. I think that's a nice selling point there. I always love a good punch to a racist. I was right though that this was. We haven't seen Kaito before these episodes, right? Like I'm not going insane.
I had the same kind of thought as well, like deja vu. I thought he might be like the Imperial who sort of was on Ferrix and like tipped the droid over, like tipped poor B2EMO over. Like I know we all wished for that guy's like imminent death, but he didn't actually. He made it out, I believe. But yeah, this was a new character, you know, sporting a nasty little facial scar and smirking during a certain horrific event that happens. And I was like, these Imperials, man, they have no soul.
So. We had a lot of Imperial stuff in these episodes, but we also start right off the bat, you know, 1 year later again, the Ferrix bells toll, and we start on Yavin, which was awesome after the little tease we got in the second episode earlier this season, where it turned out, those shitty Maya Pai rebels, you know, they were just a couple feet away from the Yavin base, and they were almost there.
Leftist Twitter in a nutshell.
Yeah, it was a great reveal, but we're finally back here. We see Will, Cassian, and Bix are now on Yavin, which I was kind of shocked that Will wasn't still with Saw Gerrera's partisans after what happened last arc.
Will, come back! There's more Rhydonium tough!
Yeah.
Join me in the Rhino huffing!
I love how Tony Gilroy's confirmed now that was what Saw was breathing on in Rogue One. It was the Rhino.
Are you here to kill me? There's not much of me left. Most of the oxygen in my lungs is gone. All that's left is the Rhino.
That's all that's left. That's all that's left. But it was great seeing Yavin in the show. We got a little glimpse of Rogue One later on in this episode when General Draven's, General Draven showed up, and he was being snippy as usual, like, "Oh, is this regulated?" As they just take the U-wing, which hell yeah, I love seeing the U-wing back again.
It's such a cool ship design, like, and I love the cockpit as well. Like, can I? That is sick. I have my Lego one in my room. I need to go and grab it.
I ordered the new one, but it's on freaking back order. And I was so mad because I saw it yesterday or Saturday in the wild, like out and about, and I was like, God damn it. Like, I gotta wait till like June for mine, and it's right there. But
God damn it.
Such a cool ship. And it was just really nice seeing these characters in Yavin. We see that Cassian's really starting to question things a lot. Like, he wants out. He said repeatedly, "This is my last mission," to Clea in the 9th episode. He seems to really be hinting at it in this episode to Bix about being sick and tired of Luthen. I think Will at one point's like, "Oh, Luthen's trying to contact you, and he just wants nothing to do with it. So
Yeah.
clearly their relationship hasn't gotten stronger in the years since we've seen these characters.
Well, you have that great line where Wilmon says, "You act like he's the enemy," and Cassian's like, "That'd be easier," because it's like, and it sums Luthen up so well. Like sometimes I feel like as a viewer, I kind of like I get really frustrated and irritated by his antics, but I also like understand him from like a morality standpoint and a like a strategic standpoint. He's a fascinating character, and it's really interesting to see all the different characters like reactions to him and how much they often like fear him as much as they kind of like respect him in a way, like Cassian especially. And you were right, the whole scene of like Cassian and Bix like in their lovely little heart on Yavin, it was great, but obviously seeing Yavin at the same time,
so nice too.
I had that dread. Do you know what I mean? Like it was the oh my god, it's Yavin, but at the same time, oh, we're so close to Rogue One. I know what that means.
You're like, we got to get from point A to point B.
Yeah.
At some point, and we have a one of those great Luthen scenes later on in the arc with Mon and Luthen, where we really get to see the extent in which like Luthen makes you like not trust anyone and like really question everything about what you are and all for the rebellion. But it was actually interesting these first two episodes that Luthen and Clea were nowhere to be found, which was like it was interesting to get used to. Seeing all these characters on Yavin. We even see Vel is on Yavin later in this episode. Still no Cinta, so that makes me very sad. But
still not over it.
We're all getting there, and getting to Yavin is a big theme of this arc for a lot of our characters like Mon. And then characters like Luthen and like Bail Organa are not yet ready to get there. We know Bail does. I'm starting to think Luthen doesn't. Whether it's by choice and he's just been hiding out on Coruscant this whole time, or he bites it. And I thought it might happen in this arc.
Yavin is the sunrise he will never see. I'm calling it now. I mean, one thing I've been calling for ages came true in episode 8, but we'll get to that. Can I talk about the Force Healer? Because I really the minute you mentioned the Force Healer, I've been itching to talk about the Force Healer, because obviously, you know, we've all often talked about how Andor is like a grounded show. It deals with the more kind of like, you know, like hard bitten, like rebel based stuff, you know, whether it's like, you know, the Empire or the rebels. And so the Force, I was always kind of like a bit confused as to whether like they would even reference the Force like more extensively than they have before, because the Force has been there. It's been sort of in the background in terms of the connectivity. I think Darren Mooney did a very good thread on like Twitter talking about like how the Force is referenced subtly in Andor's themes in terms of like the energy binding the rebels together. But I think this is what a way to overtly reference the Force in this show, to like have a Force healer, and just like the way Cassian and Bix like react to her is great. And like the bit where she like says to Cassian, "You're gathering as you go," and like there's so much, it's almost overwhelming. Like when she says about Cassian basically having a destiny of sorts, and we all know what that means. It's really cool, like to basically position Cassian almost as like an agent of the Force, that the Force is working through Cassian in ways that not even he fully understands. It's just I really loved that use of the Force. It felt like a real nice tip of the hat to the like more like mystical side of Star Wars.
Absolutely. And like not seeing like a Jedi per se, but have it be one of these Force healers, and have it be so Cassian is just so uncomfortable because Marva hated them on Ferrix.
She hated one Force healer 10 years ago.
Yeah, and just the continued theme of him just refusing to let loose and open up to anyone besides Bix. Because for the first like 20 minutes of the episode, we see he has this blaster wound on his shoulder that just isn't healing at all. Bix brings him to the Force healer. He's having none of it. He's like, "I'm gonna wait in the car." Like it just had such like dad energy. Like, no, I'm not going in. I'm waiting in the car. You can do this. But then of course it's like, oh, it feels better, doesn't it? And he's like, "Yep." And I love this moment because I don't think either him or Bix can explain the feeling, but like they're definitely like, this is something. I don't want to fully admit it yet, but he's not like Han Solo in A New Hope at this point. He's like, what is this Force thing? And then gradually accepting it to when we get to Rogue One.
When he has oh no, you go first.
I did love that scene though of describing Cassian as a messenger, which we definitely see in Rogue One, but knowing that like Bix seems to start to figure out that Cassian really is vital to the rebellion, and like it is important that he can't leave, that he stays in the fight, so that she has to make choices that she doesn't want to, but the fact that she was the one that made those choices, I thought was just an incredible bit of storytelling there.
Yeah, we'll get to that obviously with like episode 9, but like I really like again this use of the Force in Andor to like really kind of like reinforce Cassian's sort of reluctant hero status in a way. Like, he's very much like the heir to, like you mentioned Han Solo, he's very much the heir to Han Solo's archetype of the reluctant hero, even more so than Han is, because Han definitely embraces that by the end of A New Hope. Cassian is very much reluctant all the way, despite how much of a natural he is at this rebellion thing. And I kind of love that this is almost kind of like this the Force and like Tony Gilroy kind of very explicitly saying, this is how vital Cassian is, because as we all know, all the stuff that happens in A New Hope now, like Obi-Wan and R2-D2, like bringing Luke off Tatooine, taking him to Han, them getting Leia aboard the Death Star. None of that happens without Cassian.
Yep.
Going to Scarif with Jyn and all the other rebels, getting the Death Star plans. And really, if you go all the way back, you can kind of argue that it's this whole chain of events really started because Syril didn't listen to his goddamn boss. And then just say, you know what, boss, I'm just gonna like take your advice and just make up a bullshit story. That's what I'm gonna do.
Speaking of Syril, great segue.
Yes,
what an arc, man! Like this whole season has been me slowly getting him and getting behind the character, and we really see that. Really till the end of the 8th episode. But we start to see really for the first time the cracks in this 7th episode, because while we thought he might have been sympathetic to the Ghorman rebels and the Ghorman front in the last arc, that was all just him being super spy, and party guys complimenting him and being like, this is the best moment of my life. Just a great line. But
he's fronting to the Ghorman front.
Absolutely.
You can't make this shit up.
We see that something had to have changed in between these arcs, because whereas the Ghorman front fully trusted him last year, this year something seemed to have happened to where they don't trust him, and he is still naive, and he's still trying to believe the Imperial propaganda of, oh yeah, it's just rumors, and there's outside influences to the Ghorman rebellion, that the Imperials are really trying to force us. Oh, this is outside agitators doing this, and they're really trying to. We see those news reports and all those reporters all around Dedra's office and the Bureau of Standards building, just reporting on this, and those Ghorman terrorists, which we really see. Completely skipping ahead, but we see the differences, because of course the Empire would do this. Is how are they going to cover up this massacre? Well, they spin it as, well, the Ghormans did this, and the Ghormans took out these Imperial heroes. We see Edie watching, Space Fox News, crying, and then we see how they spin it in the Senate of, oh, these heroes were lost to these Ghorman terrorists, which is when Mon, takes a stand in the best way humanly possible, which we will get to. But Syril, he had that moment with the leader's daughter, who I'm still
Enza.
Enza.
I just looked it up. I have Wikipedia to my right, basically.
Smacks him in the face.
Yeah, and she just walks away. There's she doesn't even say anything. It's just like she's just so done with him. Like I think it's him mentioning his sources. He can't even it's almost the kind of thing of like the Ghorman senator says to Mon later. They can't even lie convincingly or something like that. It's not even like they can't even lie that well anymore. It's so like the lies are so obvious. Like you have that whole thing about the bombing at the Imperial Depot that they pretty much say is staged, but the media, the journalists there, they all just like tout it like unquestioningly as, oh no, it was a Ghorman like bombing. It was a Ghorman bombing, like, you know, this rejection of Imperial norms. And I'm going to jump ahead again. Like you have that scene with Partagaz talking with Dedra, basically saying, oh, it's bad luck, Ghorman. And he just like very kind of with like just a sense of detachment, just say, oh no, it's, you know, the line we're gonna like lean on is like, oh, the rejection of Imperial norms. And then you see as Syril is walking up the plaza to the building, you see a reporter regurgitating that exact line, and my blood ran cold because I was like, oh, this is like again, this is such a like a perfect kind of like metaphor for like what we deal with today, with the level of like fake news and deception that is like constantly like run through with regards to like just different politics, especially like from the right wing. It's like, it's insane, the kind of stuff.
Oh, yep. It was, they pulled no punches there. They were not subtle whatsoever in a lot of these moments. But you know, Star Wars has never been subtle.
Star Wars never been
telling
subtle.
the stories. We've been saying this for 3 years now.
Yeah.
And this is the first time Star Wars has had politics in it, and you know,
and bricks, screws, you know, all that kind of stuff.
Never had it before. This was a first. But it hit home recently because it's just crazy how this was all filmed, like I want to say like 2 years ago at this point, and it is still hitting so much harder due to so many things that are going on in the world right now. The propaganda, the cover up of genocide, the control of mass media, the censorship, and just the iron fist of tyrannical governments.
And the complacency in the media as well, like all of that just together. And it's like you said, it's so
absolutely
like chilling just how much of this like narrative we see is just like, it's just matching all of this
puppet
kind of
reporters
stuff.
And then when we get to the Senate, just how useless they are at this point. Just puppets to the Empire, and it's just, we have a few good ones left, and it's just infuriating that we see the Empire at this point to where they can literally, in A New Hope, just dissolve the Senate like that, and there's like little to no pushback or little to no resistance as he
new executive order, I dissolve the Senate,
as Palpatine blows up Alderaan. But no, like again, they did such a good job at building to this massacre, because when it all goes down in the 8th episode, it is something to behold. It is uncomfortable. It is traumatizing. It is tragic. It is brutal. Goes to ways that darkness, at least, that I didn't think Star Wars could. And we've said that a couple times this season, but it worked so well in my mind, where I literally I saw those episodes Tuesday night going into Wednesday, and they stuck with me for the rest of the week. I know you watched them later.
I watched them over
I
watched them over the weekend, and it was like the 8th episode in particular was just like a real like, whoa, like this is like some Game of Thrones level shit in a way, with like the kind of stuff like playing out. Again, you said like the darkness and stuff. It was like, I called it on Twitter, I said it's heartbreakingly magnificent, where you have like, just to jump back, like I won't go into too much detail since we have to get to episode 8, but like just the horror of like the way the Empire conducts the Ghorman Massacre, like juxtaposed with the Gore, like coming together and like embracing their like shared unity, their community, their culture. It's like, it genuinely brought a tear to my eye, some of the scenes, and I really appreciate that the Andor team, they took their time, they really like dug into Ghorman and gave it a culture and a history, and really like populated the cast with these memorable characters. Like we all like, there's so many of them obviously, but like they're all like memorable in their own way. Like the bellhop, for instance, at the hotel. the fellow who like does the arm thing and starts singing the anthem. I kind of like him.
Oh.
Even if he was partially responsible for, like, when he started singing the anthem, man, I started to tear up. I was like, oh my god, this is so sad. This is like when they all started singing it together, it was just like it was beautiful because it was
I did love that though. Like there was that once we got back to Ghorman, once Will and Cassian were on the planet and we got that meeting, there was like a cut and then like they panned the camera and he was right there. And I did love that he's fully joined the Ghorman front now because he was like on their side when the Scinta death happened, but he wasn't like in that group of rebels. And I love that he is there now. I just thought that was a really great development. And it made sense. It was like a natural progression. And I still hate Sam, but
I hate Sam too.
You're like you're starting to get out of timeout from what happened later. Just a little bit. You're starting to make up for it a little bit, but I'll still never forgive what you did to me. But yeah, going back to that, bad luck Ghorman seemed like I just like it was so chilling, and it's such like an Empire. She said, we've tried everything we could, but oh man, we have to massacre the planet now because
we have to destroy it. We have to destroy the city.
We have to substitute for these resources.
And again, you were talking about like allusions to modern day politics, mineral deals, like trying to get minerals out of countries. Oh, we need to occupy this place, this country. I mean, planet, because it's got minerals we need. Oh. I can't believe they wrote this 2 years ago. They must have just seen some of this stuff playing out in the media and been like, man, who'd have thought that we'd be this close? We'd be this close to the.
And I want to point out how they've turned the majority of this season and based it off of almost a footnote in the greater Star Wars canon before this. Of it was referenced in Rebels, it was referenced in some like Legend stuff in the 90s, but like fully see it play out throughout 2 arcs and have it be so masterfully done to where people are like, this might be the greatest Star Wars we've ever seen and some of the best TV we've ever seen. It debuted, I think episode 8 is in like the top 10 of the highest rated episodes of TV on IMDb, which is just crazy. And again, I've been saying throughout the last 2 months that the vibes are just back with Star Wars. And it's not just with Andor. Like, everything just feels good again. And I don't really know what, like, flipped the switch, but, like, we're back. And
these
episodes, as heartbreaking as they were, I was like, dude, fuck yeah. Like, I'm like, are we about to see, like, Star Wars win, like, a major Emmy? Like, I think it's happening. Whether it's Diego or whether it's, like, something.
I can think of at least 2 actors who definitely deserve Emmys for these episodes alone. Well, 3. Yeah, exactly.
Well, for these episodes alone, I mean, there's like 3 or 4. It's insane. But yeah, no, Syril, we're starting to see him show some cracks. He's slowly starting to not fully buy Dedra's excuses. Like, what is going on? What is going on? What are you not telling me? You know, this outside agitator bullshit. And then we just see that really, like, uncomfortable where just kisses him. It's like, oh, yeah, we're going to be back in Coruscant. It'll all be fine.
The most disturbing kiss in Star Wars history.
And I thought, like, the awkward, like, you know, kiss on the cheek as they're walking through the hallway last arc was awkward. That was like, oh, God. And, like... Again, Syril is still like he's an example of what happens when you devote yourself to an institution that does not give a flying fuck about you. And a lot of times in both real life and in Star Wars, they realize too late. And that's what happened with Syril. And he couldn't get out of his own way even at the end, even when he had seen the truth and when he accepted the truth and he had turned against the thing that he had built his whole life dedicated to. His own just obsession in his mind was what led to him, well, as we see the end of his story, in the 8th episode, as we will get to. But those, again, Kyle Soller was incredible in these
Oh,
episodes.
fantastic! Like the way he sold Syril's unraveling, like gradually, like as he sees, like just as the scales finally fall from his eyes, and he sees just how much he was used essentially by a system that really didn't care about him at all. It was really interesting to see it, but like the way he kind of played that in a dark way as well, like the way that just the way this arc, I was really impressed with how these arcs, especially episode 8, like built his instability, like seeded how unstable he was and how much he couldn't handle these like breaks in his reality, because every time he was confronted in these episodes with like something that broke his perception of reality, he reacted violently. And it's really interesting, like in a really interesting escalation, when Rylance confronts him, he shoves Rylance against a wall and throws him to the ground, even though Rylance is the one like upset and is confronting him. When he confronts Dedra in the ISB office, he freaking chokes her and is like threatening to throw her out the window. And it's like, that was like, I mean, Dedra's a monster, but that was still a really uncomfortable scene.
It was. I was like, oh, go Syril, but also, oh, Syril, like, do we really got to do this?
This is
like
so messed up. And then obviously there's the other scene that we're going to talk about, which is like, yeah, that was a pretty violent reaction, all things considered.
But I think what made Syril's scenes so effective is you see his realization and his turn happen in real time.
Yeah.
Most of which without much or any dialogue, which I thought was so effective. Just the looks on his face, the story he's telling with his eyes, going through the crowd and just realizing like, what the hell is going on? What is this? And we were talking last week of like, there's no way, even if he's playing a character, that he can go through what the Ghorman Front is doing and get out of it without at least having some semblance of sympathy for them. And while the last time we saw him in the last arc was him smiling after shots were fired and we lost Cinta, he's been around these rebels. He knows that there's no like outside bullshit going on. And he's like, what are they doing? What are they not telling us?
Yeah.
Why are all these troops here? And we see it all come full circle in that second episode. But we have that question of, how does Cassian get to Ghorman? And we know that Will and Cassian went on that mission together. Cassian was very hesitant, again, because it was, a Luthen mission. But Will basically says, Dedra, she's on the planet. She's running Ghorman. And of course, Dedra is a huge reason of why Wilmon's father died and was hung.
Well, she had him hanged. Yeah,
exactly.
So it is pretty much her fault, really, that Will doesn't have his dad anymore. And it's the kind of thing where it's like, I was really surprised that Wilmon showed back up again on Yavin, because, like you said, I thought he was going to have been just fully absorbed into the partisans with Saw, but I feel like the Rhydonium thing was more just cementing him as like fully committed to just burning the Empire at the cost of himself. And so it's so fitting that he's the one coming in, basically trying to coax Cassian in, and he's like saying, "Oh, you're going to say it's for revenge, but it's not." But we all know it is kind of for revenge, even as we know Dedra did horrific things to the people of Ferrix, Bix and Wilmon included. Yeah. Exactly. And I think, again, you said about like facial, like non-verbal acting. I really loved the way Adria Arjona played that scene with Wilmon, where she has a really understanding look on her face, because obviously she got her revenge in a lot of ways and took a big step towards healing from her trauma when she fucking killed Dr. Gorse. I'm still happy about that. She got that bastard, but there's lingering trauma over that, and she knows that Dedra was the one who gave the order. It was Dedra's responsibility that was led to her torture and other people of Ferrix suffering. So it's a very understanding thing, even as there's like concerns about potentially Will and Cassian getting pulled into like a horrific event, which they pretty much do.
I know. Yeah, it's crazy, and it just hit me that this arc didn't open with Bix having a nightmare about Dr. Gorse. Like, we finally moved past that, and she looked healthy, and she looked back in it, which was a stark contrast from what we saw for the majority of those first two arcs, to see her in a much better place and be able to make that decision.
See, you saying that has literally just kind of like dinged something in my head, and I think this is a really good example of like environmental storytelling, because like when we're like the arc that sees like the worst of Bix's like kind of like trauma manifest is literally her stuck in like a cold like gray apartment, featureless, very barely any kind of like things that feel homely in it, and there's like the cold metropolis outside kind of representing her kind of like dulled feelings, her like feelings of trauma. And then in this arc where she's past a lot of that, and she's healing a lot more. She's surrounded by nature. There's like a whole like lovely cabin in the woods with Cassian, where they aren't disturbed by monsters at all. Like they're living very harmoniously with nature, and I think that's a really good representation of her mental state in a lot of ways, of how freed she is from like the trauma in a lot of ways. I just
point out how good Yavin looked before we go deep into the Ghorman stuff.
I love the Masasi Temple base. I love the whole vibe. The shot of Draven walking across the hangar was so cool.
I loved the colors. I loved everything. Seeing Draven back.
Did you see this
Vel in the rebel gear, like the rebel jacket? Looked so freaking cool.
She had Jin's blaster.
Had
Jin's blaster. Like, obviously, there's the scene with Melchi, but she had Jin's blaster. That's a really cool like reference. The whole table of blasters was awesome. But here's another thing. Did you know that the ship at the very start of like episode 7 that like lands, it's the same ship from Obi-Wan Kenobi that was like the Path ship, which is really cool.
I saw that in a video afterwards, but I didn't know that while watching the episode.
Yeah, it's like. Me neither, but that's a really cool like visual reference. Yeah.
I wonder if the Path ended up getting to Yavin. That would be a pretty cool development.
He said he was just getting started. The rebel, the Path leader. So he actually would fit in rather well in Andor. To be honest, I'm surprised they didn't bring.
I remember us having discussions after we covered Kenobi and when we were talking about Andor season 1 of like, oh, could we see Ewan show up in Andor? But I remember like Roken was a character that we were could fit in this O'Shea Jackson Jr.'s character. He could fit in Andor. Like the timeline isn't too far away. You assume that the Path is still a thing by the time of Andor.
You just reminded me of my like crackpot theory about like episode 7 of season 1, where I was like, oh, Andor's gonna go to Tatooine and meet Obi-Wan and they're gonna talk and stuff. What the fuck was I on?
we all were starved for more Kenobi content.
We were all desperate for more Kenobi crumbs. That I was like working out like crackpot theories of how he was gonna like be on Tatooine. But I mean I probably would have been like even more into that if had I already known about Diego Luna wanting to meet Jabba. But here we are.
Yeah, but I just love the texture.
The texture touching his belly.
I watched that video again the other day, and I was like, "Oh man, I gotta put this in the archives one week."
I'm going to be slightly heartbroken by the end of this because I'm pretty certain we will not see a Jabba cameo by the end of this series, and that breaks my heart a little bit that he doesn't get to meet Jabba.
Damn it.
It's just another slight that Cassian is dealt
to a comic. They can make it happen at some point. But when we
do a Lego special where he meets Jabba and get Diego Luna back to voice the character. Come on.
Just like take the soundbite from that interview. It's like, the texture. It's just
I have 7 Yabbas at home.
God. But when we get to Ghorman and when we get Cassian reuniting again with that bellhop from the last arc. It was such a great scene of he's trying to check in. It's like, oh, it's not working. And like you can see that he recognizes Cassian from the last time he was here. And the next night, like after he's all set up in the hotel, I don't remember if it was in this episode or the next episode.
That scene is in the 8th episode. The 7th episode is where like he hints that he knows him, where he goes, "Oh, I think you already know the way," and I was like. And again, I love this. It's great. It's great writing that's seeded like in the earlier arc. He was nice to the bellhop. He didn't have to be nice to him, but he was nice. He like got him to trust him and confided in him about the story about the Tarkin massacre, and that actually pays off dividends with the bellhop. Thela is his name. Like he not only does he not log him in, He gives him that line, which
Amazing
completely
bluff.
caught me off guard. I took me so off
the
guard.
fact that he
when he
is
said,
the one that said it.
"Oh,
You need to have hope. It's like, rebellions are.
I hope
built on
it
hope.
works out. I hope it works out for you." And then he says, "Rebellions are built on hope." It just caught me so off guard, and I was like,
That was one of those moments where I
"Oh
was
my
like,
god!"
like I got so excited watching that scene. But we can, I guess, because the episode ends with him in his hotel room,
Yep.
seeking out, waiting for Dedra to show up because
and he's very kind of like it's very spycrafty with him getting the mirror out and the stormtroopers on the roof. That
it was
again,
so cool.
This season has done something that I don't think, like, apart from that one scene in Obi-Wan Kenobi, it's managed the impossible of like making stormtroopers really threatening for the first time in ages. Because we love some stormtroopers in Star Wars, but oftentimes they are the butt of jokes. Like the Mandalorian, obviously, famously like literally canonized that they are shit at shooting.
Mm-hmm.
But both series of Andor and this one especially really made the stormtroopers terrifying and scary in a way that I've not felt for years as a Star Wars fan. Like that shot of him putting the mirror at the end of the episode and seeing them on the roof, I felt so tense.
I think a lot of it has to do with the fact, and some people complained about this during Andor season 1, of there not being like as many, and there being just a lot of like random Imperial foot soldiers that you like see their face isn't covered. I think the fact that it's not every single troop is a stormtrooper is what has kind of led to them feeling more threatening and more intimidating because there's a bunch of random Imperial soldiers, but when those stormtroopers show up and you see them just encroaching on the crowd in the 8th episode, and you see them peering over the crowds and on the rooftops, it's like you said, it made them look intimidating and threatening and scary, which again, very hard to do with almost 50 years of stormtroopers being the butt of jokes. But there was a very brief moment, and I'd say the beginning of The Force Awakens, where they made them look intimidating, and then like Kenobi, they were intimidating.
Yeah, the scene on Freck's truck, which again, to call attention to like the production design here, I kind of felt like the truck that wheels all of the recruits in, it looked a lot like Freck's truck, which was really interesting. I just appreciate there's a lot of like cool little like design choices that are like made here, and again, I could sing about like the production design of this series and like just all the little details that they like put in here, like the way the Ghorman Plaza has changed just in this arc alone, with all the barricades being put down, just the general air there, and like the cool little Ghorman horns that the Gore use when they march out on the plaza. It's really cool.
Yep. And I guess we can fully get into the 8th episode because, oh my god, what an episode this was.
Okay, and I have to open by like pointing out that again, this is another sign of like how great they are at like working in like prior versions of the story into this new canon. Like they obviously referenced the Tarkin massacre in the last week, but what I really love is the when they do that full shot of the city of Palmo and they show where the plaza is in the city. The building behind the main garrison building is shaped like a Star Destroyer. It's like, man, it's like, what the fuck? Like this is crazy. Like, oh my god, it was so good.
Design is killer.
It's so good. Like literally, literally the ominous shape of the Star Destroyer is still hanging over. The specter of the Empire is literally hanging over this city. It's so good. There's such great visual storytelling here. But as you said, it opens. We get the slow like build of like people starting to march and stuff, and you just know that shit is gonna go down, and it's so tense.
Poor Rylands too, like he knew what was gonna happen. He was trying to warn everyone, but it was too late because the Empire knew this was gonna happen. They instigated this. They purposely had those troops there, these inexperienced children, pretty much these boys. Not a man in sight. And then just putting all that mining equipment there that Syril is just like, what the fuck is going on? And alarms are going off in his head. as he's walking through the square, and when we see him, and Rylance confronts him, is like, "What the hell are you doing here? Like, you are not one of us." And Syril just throws him against the wall. Again, like, my boy, you still got to work out your anger issues, but like,
exactly.
You're getting there, but you're not fully there yet. And it was just crazy.
It was great. I have to compliment the actor Richard Sammel who played Cara Rylance, because the heartbreak in his voice when he's confronting Syril, and the disdain at, like, when Syril is just repeating the lies that the Empire has fed him back to Rylance, and he just says, "What kind of a being are you?" Oh, it's heartbreaking.
They're
and like
rumors.
Yeah. Oh, why do you think I'd believe that? Oh, it's such a heartbreaking exchange. And again, it shows Cyril's instability. He throws him to the ground, despite the fact that Rylance is right. Rylance has seen this, and as you said, it's so sad to see him basically.
And again, I think at this point, Syril knows Rylance is right, but he still is refusing to accept it.
He doesn't want to admit it
until he hears it straight up from Dedra.
Yeah.
Which again, the build up to, I like the actual massacre itself was so. It's fucked saying this. It's so well done, and it is such a crucial and important moment in TV history. I'll say that now. I'll say that it is an episode of TV and an arc of TV that we're going to look back on, not just Star Wars, but we're going to look back on and be like, holy shit, how did they pull this off? But I think what made it work so well is we had that 15, 20 minutes of buildup where the tension is slowly rising, and you know shit is going to happen. You know that a shot is going to fire and everything is going to go down. And you're like, how is Cassian going to factor into here? How is Wilmon going to factor into this? What's going to happen to the Ghorman front? They built it so well. And the chanting, like the fact that the first 15 minutes of the episode, you hear the "We Are the Ghor, the Galaxy is watching" just repeatedly. And it just reaches a boiling point. Like, again, like Rylance tried to stop it, but there was no stopping it. They got the entire city essentially involved in this protest. We get that rebellions are built on hope line from the bellhop, which I think was such a rewarding moment. And I think what made this episode work as well as it did is, again, it is maybe the darkest we've ever seen Star Wars go. But it also had such a, I'm going to say, like, beautiful aspect of hope to these episodes. I tweeted about this. I said that moment right before the massacre, which we will get to, I think what made it work so well for me is, like, that was the first moment in this entire season where this entire group of rebels felt unified for the very first time.
It is. It's such...
And it just gave such a beacon of hope, even though you knew exactly what was going to happen, and you knew the majority of these people were going to get gunned down. And you knew it was it'll burn very brightly, as Luthen said. It worked so well, and it had those key pillars of what has made Star Wars and the Rebellion work for almost 50 years now. When a lot of people have said, friends of ours have been reluctant to, like, fully get behind Andor and get into it because it lacks a lot of those other things that make Star Wars great: the pulp, the sense of wonder and adventure,
and the mystical side of things, Jedi and the Sith and stuff, which I love. I love all of that.
I love all that, but like Andor has always worked for me, and the production and the writing are definitely a big part of it. But I think the way it tells stories, and again, anyone that says Tony Gilroy doesn't care or understand or get Star Wars is lying to themselves, because dude wrote this shit. Dude made these episodes of TV, which, again, at no point was I like, well, this isn't Star Wars. At no point. He made this work, and he integrated things from things we've seen before, and he made Mon Mothma such a compelling character, the likes we've never seen before in the 9th episode. And he made Cassian a character that has lived through the destruction of so many, like, Kenari, Ferrix, Aldani, Narkina 5, and
Mina
now
Rao.
Mina Rao. Now the Ghorman Massacre, all leading to his fate on Scarif. It is just such an achievement that we have seen, unlike very few instances before in Star Wars. Like I'm having trouble finding the words to describe it, but as we get into the build towards it, and as Syril
the congregation in the plaza.
Exactly.
I just want to add on to what you were saying, and I think one thing that really makes the scene, as you said, where the Gore people of Ghorman start singing the anthem, what makes it so so moving and kind of beautiful, even while we know all the horror of what's to come. It's because they solidify as a community in that scene. They reject the Empire's lies and the Empire's attempts to deceive the populace about them. Like the bullshit that the Empire is feeding about. Oh, they're arrogant. They're aggressive. They don't respect people. And here they are basically rejecting that and saying, no, we are proud of who we are. We are proud of our culture. We won't give in to this violent thing that you're trying to make us do. We are going to stand together. And it's really interesting. You can see the looks of surprise and annoyance on Dedra and the other Imperials' faces when they transition from the more aggressive "We are the Gore, the galaxy is watching" to their anthem, which again, and I think it's a really great choice on the production side to evoke a lot of World War II vibes with the design of Ghorman and the vibe of its the aesthetic and costuming of its populace. You mentioned when the episodes aired. These episodes aired the same week as the 80th anniversary for VE Day. We had a massive celebration for that in the UK, and it's there was a lot of talk about the horrors of war that went through. And I remember there was a lady on TV who was part of that generation who said, talked about wars being fought over greed and land and stuff, and saying, people don't need to kill each other. And it was very moving. And the words and all the kind of emotions there stuck in my head while I was watching that.
An entire planet massacred, like you said, over greed, over the desire to get this resource. And we have no other option.
Yeah, and we got to build a big stupid space station. So
exactly.
And I love that. I did like the reference to Edu. I'm reading Catalyst at the moment, so I'm in my Galen Erso vibe.
Our research division on Edu is struggling. We couldn't find it. Let me ask you a question here.
Yeah, go on.
Were you surprised that the Ghorman Massacre went down with how it was first alluded to in the first episodes, and Krennic didn't show up at all in these episodes? Did that shock you? Because it kind of shocked me too.
I'm not surprised that Krennic wasn't involved. It kind of makes sense that because Dedra was sort of put in charge, and I was kind of figuring that she'd be presiding over it, and Krennic would be at a healthy distance, like he has been for a lot of this. But the way it played out in terms of what actually happened to cause the massacre, I thought it was really fascinating. Because I was saying about how the Ghormans reject what the Empire's attempts to label them as aggressive and arrogant. They show how passionate and unified they are, and despite the Empire constantly trying to goad them into attacking these green new recruits, these young recruits who are clearly scared and are gonna fight back at the fire back at the first opportunity, the Empire has to instigate the first shot themselves. Yeah. It's so very well done that the thing that causes it is a calculated move by the Empire. It's an order given. It's an Imperial sniper on the roof that shoots that first recruit, and that makes Sergeant Bloy give the order to fire. It's so well done and shows just how authoritarian regimes, they are so desperate to control the narrative. They're so eager to ensure that they control everything, even the narrative, even the perception of their enemies. And it's again, it was it's balancing the horrors of authoritarianism, of fascist regimes like the Empire, with the genuine beauty that comes from seeing people unify into a community that loves and respects one another, like we see with the Ghorman. And it all comes together in this explosive cocktail of emotions. It's like, oh man, the episode 8, whew.
It was heavy. That's no easy way of describing it. To quickly pedal back to how we got to Syril being
Syril,
the crowd. When he manages to make it into the buildings, like, I work here, and they put him in that room. And this was one of the best shots of the whole episode, is him just being in the room with all those KX security droids and them just looking right at him. It's just like, oh boy. And then this is when my mind is going, oh, so we are getting K2 in this.
I literally went like that when he walked in and you see the KX droid. Oh my god,
they have made KX droids so scary in this show, and it's not just from trauma from playing Jedi Fallen Order. It is like they were used very briefly in the Niamos episode last season, and then some of the freaking things that happen once they're deployed in this episode, which we will get to, are just my jaw was on the floor at points from that one moment in particular.
Like I'm gonna add on to what you said about that scene. Like again, it was a great moment. It made me go, ooh, when he walked in and all of the droids were there. The bit where it cuts back to that one droid still staring at him, I literally made noises out loud because of how terrifying that shot was of the droids staring at him. You're absolutely right. They have made the KX droids utterly terrifying forces in these episodes, like especially. And I tweeted this earlier at the time of recording, but this is a really great example of a cross-media effect between like different Star Wars shows working, because obviously, the KX droids also appeared in the Book of Boba Fett. They were in flashbacks depicting, the Empire's massacre of the Mandalorian people, the bombing of like Sanjari.
I forgot about that.
And the imagery was very explicitly evoking, images of Skynet and the apocalypse in Terminator 2. And I was like, oh yeah, they are like kind of like Terminators. I hadn't thought of that. And it's great imagery for one thing. But what was great about it was it had in my mind, more firmly that kind of imagery when the KX droids are brought onto the plaza and they start like killing people basically. And it really kind of like made them more threatening for me in a lot of ways, because I was like, oh yeah, this is Terminator vibes basically, as well as another scene that closes out the whole arc. But again, we'll get to that because we're talking about the heavy stuff.
We're talking about the heavy stuff now,
not about the light stuff.
And Syril, like we said, just barging in, confronting Dedra, demanding to know the truth, and once she tells him that, and he chokes her out, and she tells him what they plan on doing to Ghorman, he is just like, I can't believe that I helped lead to this.
He's like, I'm in love with a monster.
Yeah. He had a role in this. He enabled the rebels, and he fed right into Partagaz and Dedra's lap. And Dedra, again, monster. You see that she's fighting a little bit of conflict here of like, she really, whether maybe it's just the fact that she isn't fully in power because Kaido is there, but like, she definitely is like not too thrilled about having to give the order to fire on these citizens. And there's that great moment at the end of the episode where she's just clutching at her collar and like pretty much having an anxiety attack, breaking down. And there was that scene in the trailer, and we were like, oh, is this Vader showing up? But like, no, it's just her having a freaking panic attack because she just gave the order to massacre thousands of innocents. And Syril more violently reacted to it and realized, he had the massive "what have I done" moment as he just walks through the crowd with just this look of terror and shock and horror in his eyes.
He's having his Cutler Beckett moment from Pirates of the Caribbean at World's End. It's just good business. He's just, walking around watching everything blow up in his face. But I also have to shout out Denise Goff for perfectly snarling the line at Syril. You didn't seem to mind the promotions. I was like, oh,
yeah.
It's like, it's so great. It's so perfect. It's skewering Cyril's character and his blind subservience to authority because he thinks he'll benefit, versus Dedra's utter lack of humanity in the moment. And again, you said it's so interesting though to see her also struggle with the lack of control she has over this and the violence that spills out from it and the anxiety attack. And I think it's really interesting that we don't see her again after this. It's going to be really interesting to see her in the final arc, and because we know she's there. There's shots in the trailers of her in Luthen's shop, which is scary, but it's going to be really interesting to see what the final point is for her.
Do you think she knows Cyril's dead by the end of the episode?
I think she does. I think that's part of what informs the anxiety attack a little bit, because there's no like the Imperials would have been doing an inventory. They would have found Syril by that point. So I think that informs part of it. Maybe Edie already knew as well, and that's why Edie is crying on when you see the TV, which is a very sad thing. Edie was a very kind of unlikable character in a lot of ways due to her treatment of Syril, but it's still very sad to see her mourning the loss of her son. Should we since we've brought it up, should we get into Syril, what happened with Syril? So yeah, because man, that I thought,
way to go out.
When he was as you said, he was stumbling around the plaza in slow motion, watching everything play out. I thought for sure he was just going to get knocked in the head with a blaster bolt, and that was it. But then he saw Cassian, and I was like, oh no, this is the worst time for you to see him, because poor Cassian, he's literally in the middle of this. He's just trying to
we're literally for 2 arcs, come on, give us one moment where they see each other.
They walk by each other.
They did it so well, as they had that moment where they walked by each other before the massacre started, and Syril didn't notice him. And Cassian, as we find out, no idea who the fucker was.
I was calling that for years. I was calling that he would I just had the feeling going along the show that's wait, does Cassian know who this guy is? Does he actually have any memory of Syril? Because all he really knew is that this guy was just some random Morlana cop that he held a gun to and threatened, basically, and that's it. And I just think, obviously there have been people in Star Wars Twitter that have been advocating for a redemption arc for Syril, but me personally, I always thought that was impossible due to the nature of his character, due to his not just his blind subservience to authority, but his very kind of clear instability. And we talked about the violence that kind of brews under him. It all culminates in this because his whole world at that moment has been completely shattered. His whole world is gone. Everything has been pulled out from under him. His relationship with Dedra, his relationship to the Gore, his relationship with the Empire, everything is just shattered. He sees everything more or less for what it is. He has nothing left except for his hatred of Cassian, the man that kind of whose actions he basically took personally and decided, I'm gonna hunt this guy down. This guy is my nemesis. He's my white whale. I'm gonna get him. And again, you have that really surprising burst of rage from Syril, and it's the kind of thing where it's we all assumed Cassian would just pancake this guy the first time they met, given how things played out in the first arc in Series 1. But it's a tough fight. He's really going at him. You have and it's really, and it's so much more frenetic with all of the blaster fire going off. You have that grenade landing, them going flying, and then Cassian diving over the table. And that was that was the moment where I really felt a sense of danger, even though I know that Cassian is going to be fine in this. I still felt the sense of danger. And then, as you alluded to, Syril picks up Cassian's gun. He walks over, he points it at Cassian, and Cassian's like, "Who are you?" And I love I love the way Kyle Soller plays that scene. He's shattered. It's the final humiliation for him. Everything he's done, everything he's caused, the consequences of his actions, or the deaths, the trauma that he has unintentionally inflicted on all these people, from Ferrix, from Ghorman, it's all been in pursuit of a person that has no idea that he exists. that has no quarrel with him ultimately, beyond needing his blaster for like that one time. And yeah, it's kind of the perfect way to end Syril's story for me. Like, you know, he dies realizing just how much of a shell his life was, how much he built it up on basically lies. You know, his subservience to the Empire doomed him because he never was willing to kind of like question any of it. And it's
the
just
very last moment that everything was for nothing.
Oh,
And
I mean, I called it for ages that Cassian was going to be like, it was going to be the Thanos meme. You took everything from me. I don't even know who you are. Yeah. But it's like, you know, I didn't realize it was going to be this brutal. And here's the kicker as well. Cassian still doesn't know who he is by the end of this. Like, it's not like Cassian gets told, oh, who was he? Oh, he was this guy. He leaves the planet like never knowing who Syril is. Like I almost like wonder like the conversation he had with Bix like the next night. It's like, oh yeah, some weirdo just tackled me out of nowhere. It was like I didn't even know who he was.
I was like, part of me was, as the riots started going down, part of me was like kind of hoping that he would leave with Cassian and end up going to Yavin and join the rebellion, and that would be like the final moment of Syril's arc, as he ends up giving himself and sacrificing himself to the rebellion. But again, it's so like every major death this season, it's so sudden. The fact that it was Rylance that did it just domed him right in the head.
Oh yeah.
At first I was like, is that it? But like part of me also knew like, yeah, no, he's not making it out of this episode, is he? And I was
and they
kind of
zoom in on
struggling
him
with that because I'm like, he's been such a major character to have him go in this episode. But you need, again, for an arc like this and an episode like this and a moment like this to work, you need to feel the stakes. And losing a character, not only losing a bunch of characters in the Ghorman front, but losing a character on the other side, which we've been following the entire show. And it's really compelling. And I'm joining this gang. Dedra Miro, I hope you die on the Death Star. I hope you. I just hope it happens because this is your fault. You did this right when I was starting to like my guy. He gets domed in the head because he can't get over his hatred for Cassian.
I'm really interested to see if Dedra will catch flack for what's happened on the Ghorman front, given what happens in episode 9. I wonder if we're going
to see Dedra and Edie have another scene together and her just have to hide the fact that he turned on her and choked her out at the end. But I think that's going to be the last. I don't think we're going to see Edie again because to me, like
I don't either.
It was hard. It was sad, but it was also like such a, like I said, such a way that the Empire is spinning this, and of course that she's going to cry watching the Imperial news because her poor Imperial heroes lost their lives defending against these terrorists. And I was just like, of course. Like if you're gonna emphasize that in any way, have it be Edie crying watching the news. I
was like, fuck you, man. Like,
I know,
the lies.
Just go die in a hole. But real quickly, I'm gonna be unhinged for a second. I just want to talk about Cassian's hair in this arc. He's got the man bun. I kind of love it. I kind of fuck with it really hard.
Honestly, I know a lot of people went nuts for his fashion designer look, cover look, his Varian Sky costume.
I think this might be my favorite one in the season.
This is my favorite look. I love the trench coat. He looks really freaking cool.
The hair is cool.
The sniper blaster that's built into his Briar pistol. That's cool. So awesome. Like he's got him just using the scope. Like again, he was just he spends the whole the first half of that massacre just trying to just wait for Dedra, and then he just gets tackled out of nowhere. It's it's crazy. It was a great compliments to the stunt coordinators and Diego Luna and Carl Soler. That was a really well staged fight, really brutal hand to hand stuff.
We've had of hair. We haven't really mentioned. I love that the way that we can kind of tell that Syril is started to change is the fact that his hair.
Oh yeah, he's let his hair grow.
It grew. It's longer. It's not as slicked back like it previously was. I just thought there was a little subtle detail that I liked there.
Definitely. Can I also mention Drina, because that's the one like Gore character we've not mentioned, like because you mentioned
is that Will's girlfriend?
Wilmon's new girlfriend, yeah, like because again I was really surprised. I thought Wilmon was a goner this whole arc. I thought Wilmon's
say,
gonna
did you think
die.
he was gonna die? Because I sure did.
I thought Wilmon was gonna die for sure, man. Like, because he's Cassian's little brother, basically. You know, you have that scene earlier of them piloting the U-wing and Cassian messing around, showing
was so
off.
Fun.
It was so fun, like just messing with Wilmon because he sees Wilmon as like a little brother and stuff. And I thought for sure Wilmon is gonna die. I mean, I breathed a sigh of relief that Bix wasn't going to Ghorman for one thing, but I was very concerned about Wilmon, especially when you see him the next morning and he's just sitting in like on the edge of the bed with Drina. Because at first it was like, oh, like I thought when she was like making smiley faces at him like across the room, I was like, oh, this would have been nice, but he's just not going to commit to that. Oh no, he committed basically in the next episode they're together, and you have this really sad moment where he goes back. And again, this is like two things I'm building off here, but like, you have that really sad moment where he leaves Cassian to go back and see Drina, and like you have that lovely Ferrix Stone and Sky exchange, which is fantastic, and this is all juxtaposed with this heartbreaking like speech from Drina, this plea to the galaxy to try and try and tell the truth of what's happening. And I have to compliment Ella Pellegrini, the actress, for like just the emotion in her voice, the way her voice is breaking, like when she says, "Is there no one who can help us?"
Oh my god,
it was heartbreaking. And again, you've got the scene with Cassian in the car with in the speeder with the tear falling down his face.
One of my favorite shots of the entire show.
Emotional damage.
Yeah. I real quickly want to go back to that singing scene.
Yes, please do.
I talked about it earlier, but I alluded to this on Twitter. It's not a scene I think people are going to think of when they think of favorite Andor scenes. At least I don't think so.
Oh, it's one of mine. It's sure.
It's definitely my favorite scene in the show. I think it might be up there with my new favorite Star Wars scene of all time. It's just when I think of the rebellion, I'm going to think of this, because it's like I said, the whole theme of the season has been the dysfunction and the lack of unity between these rebel groups, which makes Mon Mothma's speech in Rebels unifying this into one collective rebel alliance work so well now that we have this context in Andor. Again, building off of that Rebels episode. I have not done the Welcome to the Rebellion in the Secret Cargo watch like a lot of people have. But I should. I should go back and I should watch it.
I need to do that,
because a lot of people have been doing that. But like you said, going from that, not aggressive, but the loud chant, the galaxy is watching, to transitioning to singing that anthem, like it just felt so powerful, and it was such a display of fighting against tyranny. Even though I think they knew that some shit was going to go down. And we as an audience know, some awful shit's going to happen in the next couple minutes. And we're going to lose a lot of these characters. And we're going to see how truly horrifying the Empire is. It's that moment of hope. And it's what the rebellion was displayed in just that one scene. It was so... like I was getting, like, it was the one scene from this episode that I kept thinking about and I kept going back to, and it wasn't leaving my mind, was this scene of having that for the first time this season. This is a collected, unified group together as one as they face their deaths. Again, it was so beautiful. It was so beautifully tragic and horrifying. But it was such a great scene. And again, I think this could go into the hollows of, One Way Out and the Fight the Empire on Ferrix. We're having a lot of those moments. And I think time, like, again, people are saying that this is the best Andor has been. Time will tell if it becomes as iconic as Rick's Road or One Way Out, but it's getting up there because there are certainly quotes from this arc that are like ingrained. Like these are Star Wars quotes for me now. Like I have friends everywhere. I'm gonna be saying all the time now, and I love how that has such a deeper meaning now. But again, I just want to talk about that scene because I alluded to it right after I watched the episode. Like, yeah, I think I have a new favorite Star Wars scene, and just thinking about it a week later, I don't know if I can fully all cap say that yet, but it is up there and is definitely, I think, my favorite scene in all of Andor because it's what makes this massacre have so much weight and hurt so much more is that we have that moment of hope and that moment of beauty before the tragedy and before the darkness and before the destruction was having that. And I just, again, shout out to the writers, shout out to the performers, shout out to everyone in that Ghorman front. They all did an incredible job, the actors portraying them. Now we can get into some really fucked up moments from this. Like, for example, that KX droid just hurling Enza to her death. Oh my god, I was not expecting that.
Oh, it's so brutal. Like the way the camera just like stays with her on the floor as it like marches towards her, and like again, it's such a violent thing. Like it just throws her, and she's immediately dead. And like you said, that these droids are so terrifying in these episodes. Like when one of them just like kicks the barrier and it goes like flying across the square and just like knocks people over. It's just like, yeah, it's just scary shit as well. And then you have that scene later where like Cassian is reunited with Wilmon, and literally people are flying through tunnels, like smacking into walls, and these droids are like running and like picking people up and throwing them. It's just, yeah, it's messed up. It's really like messed up stuff.
And we see the bellhop, take his own life with the grenade.
No, I was sad when Enza died. I was really sad when Thela like set off a detonator. Like, it was so very, very sad.
It hurt.
Especially
it hurt.
It really hurt because I knew that he'd been there for the previous massacre and he was having to sacrifice himself in this one. Like I was genuinely surprised that some of them survived, honestly, that some of them made it out. But yeah, it was sad losing. Like, I think it made sense to lose several of the Ghorman characters as much as it hurt. It was, yeah, again, I have to compliment the previous arc. We spent time with these characters. We got to know them enough, despite knowing
that arc wouldn't work nearly as well if we didn't end up losing a few of them.
Oh yeah, for 100%.
And again, like the way it all happened was just rough. And again, this was Andor has done such a great job at making the Empire like scary and despicable in ways that, again, this has always been, the evilest of evil. It's been the ultimate villain for 50 years. But again, the way that they do it and the way that it makes it feel so like this is shit that's happening in our day-to-day lives. And we're seeing it because we're seeing it happen to everyday people. We're seeing it happen to these rebel groups that we're meeting and these characters that we're getting time with. And we're not seeing it happen to Force-sensitive characters and Jedi and Sith. Like the fact that it's everyday people that we could see on the street or that we could see at our job. Like it's just
100%.
It hits so much harder.
Because like the Jedi characters can fight back usually, characters like, Luke Skywalker, Han Solo, oftentimes the stormtroopers are such jokes in those scenes, and the Empire is often like less threatening in a lot of ways because those characters have those special abilities and those like special moves and stuff. But, again, these are everyday people, like you said, who don't often have those abilities to fight back in the way that our main heroes do. And it makes you realize again just how threatening and terrifying the Empire is as a concept, as like this authoritarian force.
Like, for years, people were like, we only really hear about Vader at his scariest and at his most powerful. We don't really get to see it that much, aside from like Rogue One and Rebels and stuff like that. I feel like the Empire was a similar thing of like, we
Yeah.
hear about how dangerous and awful and how much of a dictatorship it was, but like we don't get to see like the true ultimate horrors of it that much. We do get to see it in the show, and especially in this arc, and it hits so much right here. It hurts so bad, but it is so powerful, and it is stuff I'm never going to be able to forget as a Star Wars fan.
So I think the one thing that we haven't covered yet, and I think this is a good way to close the episode out on like a lighter note amid all of the emotional devastation, is the fact that Cassian and Will, they're running through the street, and we obviously, as we said before, the KX droids are coming after them, and there's one in particular that Cassian focuses on. He's shooting the droid, trying to get its attention. And then Sam drives a massive speeder, smashes the thing into the wall. And at first we're like, okay, that one's done. It's like, it's kaput, it's ripped in half and stuff. And then Cassian starts to look at the droid, and I was like, oh, is this K2? Is this going to be K2? And then Cassian calls Will and Sam back, and it's like, one last favor. And he's driving off with the droid. And even amid all the devastation, in the back of my mind, I'm like, that's K2. That's K2. Mm-hmm. He's got K2.
Fucking Sam. He helped out now.
Smidge, tiny smidge forgiven. I still hate your guts for killing Cinta. But yeah, that was a tiny little bit of redemption there for Sam.
We definitely had more heartbreak because Will stays behind, and at that point, I'm like, this dude's a fucking goner. Like it's
I thought he was so
sad, but he made it.
Yep.
As we see next episode, his leg is all kinds of shattered. So I'm wondering if this is going to be like a Saw Gerrera parallel next arc, and he's got like a
droid leg,
droid legs. I think it could very well be the case of just showing him further and further being radicalized, like Saw, and being almost a mirror to him. I think that would be very interesting. But
can I just mention about the comic as well? Because I think this is kind of one thing I was building towards with the K2 thing. Because obviously, one thing that was of note is that this basically overwrites the Rogue One tie-in comic, which I haven't read it. I don't think you've read it.
I've never read it. No.
So neither of us have read it, but like we know it exists. We know that there was like a comic that explored the first meeting, and this has basically been rendered non-canonical now. And there's been some interesting discussion about it, but I'd be interested to hear your thoughts on it. My personal feeling was like, it's easy for me to say having not read the comic, but I think what they did here was really cool. And I even think that there's like an easy way of kind of like, backdooring the plot of the comic in a way that makes sense and goes with the themes of the show. Because like, when in the past, when there's been like stuff like this, like, the Rogue One visual dictionary saying that, Cassian was from Fest when really he was from Canary, and Tony Gilroy basically going, okay, well, we'll cut this and we'll say that he's from Canary because this is the story I want to tell, but we'll say that Fest was a cover story for him. And he did the same thing with the Tarkin massacre. That was the Ghorman Massacre in Legends, but he basically folded it into continuity as its own thing, separate from the Ghorman Massacre. And I kind of feel like they could do the same here with the K2 comic. I think Alex from Star Wars Explained, Alex and Molly, they talked about this I think in their like weekly video, but I've been thinking a similar thing of like, just basically say that this is the cover story in the rebellion for how Cassian found K2. Like this is what Cassian and the other rebels this is what Cassian says to the rebels, per Draven's orders, because I kind of feel like the rebels would maybe be a little more lenient in having K2 around if they didn't know that this droid had been part of the Ghorman massacre. I just think
I could definitely see them doing that and throwing that line in of like, just, hey, cover story is we met him on this planet, and it's the planet that the comic happens in.
I could just see
there was some discourse about this, and there was some discourse about Mon's speech being different than the one in Rebels, which that one I think I don't really care. I think it's just, you're expanding on it. I think
we
if
got
it was
Fire
word
Star
for
Wars.
Word, the same speech, I'd be like, well, this is just a live action adaptation of something we've seen before.
Do we want rigid adherence to continuity, or do we want Star Wars dialogue? Like I
it's
choose
the
the
exact
latter.
same scene, just dialogue is different. It's like, oh, well, she wasn't wearing the Senate robes, set in a show where it's an animated show, so all the characters wear the same outfit every episode. Like, that I don't care about. And again, it's not a retcon because it's still following the same events.
Yeah.
And the fact that she's giving that second speech and Gold Squadron's picking her up, that's directly referencing that Rebels episode.
Oh,
so
I can't wait to talk about all that.
And again, this is they brought it up. They're aware of it, and just like, oh, we didn't strictly adhere to it, but like it's the same scene. This comic thing I think is a bit of a different story, and I found it funny because the discourse for years had been, well, we feel like this is going to get retconned, and we don't really care because a lot of people don't seem to be a fan of the comic. But now that it's happening, it's like, oh, well, this is like the first real instant. Like, we've had things changed that were in comics and then adapted into animation, like tidbits of Kanan and Depa Bilaba's origin in the Bad Batch were changed, and tidbits from the Ahsoka novel were changed for Tales of the Jedi. But this is like a completely different, like, unless they do throw in that little tidbit next arc, because again, we don't have the complete story yet.
I can just see K2 going, do we still have to do that cover story? This is some bullshit.
I think they could definitely squeeze that in there.
I had to get a Resident Alien reference in there just because I love Alan Tudyk, so that there it is.
I think it was just like, I think someone, I don't remember who it was, but I saw this in a thread and I said it was essentially the fact that they've gone 10, 11 years in this new canon, and this is really the first direct retcon we've had, is pretty impressive. Because you look at other franchises with their canon, like the MCU, there's been points where they've completely overridden their canon. The X-Men universe, like the Fox X-Men movies, canon schmanon, like what is it for that? Like they changed it all the time.
I was always fine with the retcon in X-Men Origins Wolverine. That's all I'm going to say.
That's the worst movie I've ever seen.
It's so bad.
It's so bad.
Terrible.
But like,
God, the deep fake, the CGI Patrick Stewart. No.
My name is Charles Xavier. I'm like, I hate this. I've seen it once, and I never want to watch it again. I was gonna do a rewatch of the X-Men movies after Deadpool and Wolverine last year. I didn't end up doing it. I only got through the first X-Men movie. But I was gonna skip that one because
yes, there is no reason to watch that movie ever again. The X-Men films themselves have seen to that very much.
Absolutely. But I do think, like, yes, it does for a lot of people who really wanted this new canon to be everything matters, and some people are going to be, well, this is them saying that books and comics don't matter again. I think the way that they've been telling stories the last several years shows that that's the exact opposite from the truth. The fact that we've had so many characters from animation get brought over to live action, the fact that we've had, Cobb Vanth originated in, there it is again.
There it is again. For anyone listening, my brother just handed me another tea. We're keeping the streak going.
But the fact that Cobb Vanth originated from the Aftermath books, was brought into live action. I mean, again, this is one medium to another one, but like the fact that the main villains of the Battle of Jakku comic arc from last year were from a mobile game from 10 years ago that you can no longer play because it's been delisted everywhere, like, it just shows that, we're still caring about these characters and we're still telling these stories in different mediums. I just think it's one instance, and I think in this situation it was, do we want to adhere strictly to this, or because Tony Gilroy worked on Rogue One and he's crafted these characters with Cassian. Do we want to shoehorn this origin in and potentially have to do it off screen because it doesn't align with what we have planned for the season?
Yeah.
Or do we want to make K2's arc more meaningful and have him be introduced in such an atrocity and have him really play a role where the minute he loses someone in his life, K2 gets activated and he becomes that friend and that companion that we see him in Rogue One.
Another scene I cannot wait to talk about.
So again, it's like, it's unfortunate that this happened. But I think once the dust kind of settles on this one, we're gonna be fine with it. And again, this happened in Legends all the time. Famously, Boba Fett's origin before Episode 2 was incredibly different in Legends, and then George was like, we're gonna call that a different character.
I'm not gonna do that. I'm not gonna do that.
Mm-hmm.
Different story.
So again, one comic out of however many hundreds of stories since 2015, I'm willing to say, you know what, it's fine. And again, I think it's valid to be upset. We had these same conversations when there were less egregious retcons in some of the animated stuff. So yeah, we can have them here. And I'm sure that there are some people that did really like that comic that are upset that it's been erased. But I think when we look back at it, we're going to be like, yeah, no, this was the right decision.
I agree with
it made K2's origins with Cassian more compelling, and that we actually got to see the reprogramming happen, and we got to see his birth, as Diego called it, at Celebration.
It was a violent birth, to say the least. But yeah, I agree with everything you just said there. Like, I think we as Star Wars fans, we need to have a more healthy. Obviously, it's totally legit if anyone was upset by the comic being retconned, but I do think we need to advocate and continually work on having a healthy connection to the continuity. In that, we need to embrace the kind of retcons that might have to come with like telling a new story, because and Star Wars wouldn't be Star Wars without some retcons. I've said it before on the podcast, but a lot of the biggest and most beloved developments in Star Wars are retcons. The I Am Your Father scene, the scene that cemented Star Wars as like the biggest film franchise in the world, is like considered the greatest movie twist of all time. It was a massive retcon. George Lucas hadn't thought it up. It was never intended to be like to be in the first film, and then that's why in Return of the Jedi you suddenly have to have Obi-Wan explain, oh yeah, this is why I said this kind of like bullshit about your dad when he was really like the evil bastard in black who was hunting you. And again, Leia being Luke's sister,
big retcon.
massive retcon. Boba Fett being a clone of Jango Fett, massive retcon. Boba Fett was just a nobody in a suit that George Lucas just like threw on because that the suit was supposed to be a new stormtrooper, and they couldn't produce it in enough of them because of budget. There's so many instances of Star Wars retcons happening. I mean, we just got a Sarge Ventress back, which is a massive
retcon. Maul in the Clone Wars.
Darth Maul's about to get a show, and that fucker died in Phantom Menace. It's like the dude doesn't. The dude is like has nothing from the waist down, thanks to Obi-Wan, but he still is living and getting a TV show because of retcons. Retcons have their place. It's like I said it during our recap of the Ventress episode in Bad Batch with Katrina Dennis. It's very much like, getting mad at a retcon is like getting mad at like because someone used a tool to put up a shelf. It can be done poorly, it can be done well, but really it's all about the implementation. And I think in this specific instance, with what we got at the end of this arc with K2 and the way they kind of tied K2 into like the larger narrative with the Ghorman Massacre, and as you said, Cassian's kind of emotional development and the emotional losses he has to deal with in this arc, I think it really worked. And I said before, the final scene alone is more than enough of a trade-off for me. Like it was fantastic.
And people have had this discussion of like, when they wrote that comic, the Andor wasn't a thing at that point, and Lucasfilm probably thought, we're probably not going to really touch these characters again. So in their mind, like, if they knew that they were going to make this show, maybe they wouldn't have wrote that comic and they wouldn't have commissioned that. But their plans were different in 2017 than they were in 2025. And again, I think we got to like realize like it's not like they're erasing massive aspects of canon here. Like when Kenobi happened and Reva stabbed the Grand Inquisitor, and there was for like 3 weeks people like, did they just retcon Star Wars Rebels? And it's like,
I mean, we were so green when we started this podcast talking about that, and even we were like, "No, they're obviously not going to do that.
No, they're not doing that.
They're obviously not going to do that." It's like and again, we're talking retcons. They, Leia knowing Obi-Wan before A New Hope massive retcon. One of the best things about that show,
Yeah.
Obi-Wan and Vader fighting, being the whole premise of the show, despite the fact that they're supposed to meet again in A New Hope after Revenge of the Sith. Massive retcon, but I fucking loved it because it was a great fight, and it has again one of the best moments of the series.
Again, people are mixed on it.
I'm sorry, Anakin, for all of it.
People are mixed on the show, but Book of Boba Fett in itself is a retcon because dude was dead in Return of the Jedi.
Oh, people didn't care about that, Andrew, because
people never believed that though. And even in '83, they were like, no, he's probably he escaped.
People wanted that to happen. You could feel the collective. You could feel the collective joy of stuff.
When it happened,
you're like, he got out of the Sarlacc. We finally saw it.
But I would say, moving on from this point, of course, the episode ends that heartbreaking shot of just him with the tear, and then we see Edie. And it's crazy that we're talking about this. And I feel like in any other arc, like this would be like the culmination. But the fact that we have one more episode after this and we get to see the immediate aftermath, I thought was so cool.
With the Gore Senator.
This happened. And I was like, oh shit, we still have one more episode left. And I watched this the day after I watched the second episode. So I had the day to like think about that second episode. Like, what are they going to do in this episode? Thankfully, I didn't have something spoiled. Someone did say, I think it was one of the Kessel Run Relay girls. It was like, oh man, I'm really thinking about Han and Kira a lot after this episode. I was like, what does that mean? What does that mean? And I was like, please don't tell me it means what I think it does. But I went in and I was like, okay, so we know we're gonna have to see something, because we were saying like, okay, Mon's got to deliver that speech in the Senate.
Yeah,
we kind of theorized, and we were right on the fact that Cassian is going to get her off of Coruscant.
I was so excited for this,
which I love. I love, like, again, the Empire has framed this as it's an insurrection. It was a terrorist uprising, and we see one of the very first things we see in this episode is that Gore senator get arrested, and it's like,
for no reason at all.
It's like,
and literally, and he's saying it's my people today, yours tomorrow. And who is the camera lingering on?
Bail Organa. Which, let me just take a moment. We all, after last week, owe a collective apology to Benjamin Bratt. Dude is insanely good as Bail in this episode.
He had the traditional like Bail, like old Iranian like cloak, like draped over his side as well. I was like, I appreciate the touch, but he was. I definitely agree. Would we all have loved Jimmy Smits to be here? Of course we would have. Of course it would have been preferable, but I just think Benjamin Bratt was fantastic in these scenes. He as I thought, he communicated Bail's steadfastness, his conviction, his passion for justice, and he got a great line. Tear the shit out of this place.
Wow.
I was like, so
good.
That's Bail. That's Bail Organa.
Again, we get the build up, and again, because it's Andor, there's shit's going down, because we get the build up of
you get like a great visual metaphor at the start of the episode with like the single drop. Like the Senate building reflected in like in a puddle, and it's like single drop, and then a cacophony of drops, and then it's raining. It's so good,
so good. But the plan is, of course, Mon to deliver the speech and then get brought back to Yavin. Bail is deciding to stay on Coruscant for now to fight the fight there, and of course, he has his inner circle and his guards that he wants Mon to be brought to Yavin with. But we find out from Luthen that his circle has been compromised, and there is an ISB plant among them.
And I think it's really interesting that he just says Bail's team is corrupted. He doesn't really kind of like be more specific with Mon. I mean, he might just not have a lot of information about who it is, but he almost phrases it to her in a way that like almost makes out like she can't even trust Bail completely, which is just a really interesting decision from Luthen, and shows how paranoid he is in a lot of ways with the various rebel characters that he's supposed to be allied with. But Yeah, no, it's really cool to see the plans start to develop, and again, I love that at the start of the episode is no bullshit. Mon is like, I'm doing a speech. I can't do this anymore. I have to call this out. And you have that lovely scene in the earlier episode. Well, not lovely, but like it's the wrong word, but like sad scene in earlier in the episodes where the Gore senator that we talked about, the one getting arrested, who'd earlier been kind of like indifferent and urging his people not to stand against the Empire and kind of not supportive of Mon's plans to call attention to what the Empire was doing in Ghorman. He has that scene with her where he says, I don't think I ever thanked you for how much you have been there for my people, how much you've spoken out for us. And I gotta say, the look on Genevieve O'Reilly's face when that's delivered, it's kind of heartbreaking. It's touching because it's like, I saw someone on Twitter say, I think that's the first time someone has thanked her for doing what she's doing, for standing for people. And it's so sad. Mon is a character who we see as like a rallier, a leader, but she has been so alone throughout this series, so unable to trust people, even her own family, with the truth of what she's doing. It's just, this was a great, despite her being more of a background player for the first 2 episodes, it was so great to see her take center stage here. I'm going to say it now. Give Genevieve O'Reilly the Emmy. She fucking earned it, man.
She's so good in this episode.
Oh. I also want to say, I feel like this has got like a new sort of minor Star Wars character that I'm a fan of now, and that is Erskine Samaj.
I was literally just about to bring up Erskine.
Yep.
Dude was the MVP in this episode. We find out as Mon's talking to Luthen that he has been working with Luthen since Leeta's wedding. Yeah. Mon, of course, is just really struggling with this. She dismisses him from her team because this to her was her most trusted confidant. And he was, in many ways playing a facade, even though he did everything for her and everything to protect her. It was, the fact that she has to live with her driver. She knows her driver is an ISB spy. She knows that her husband and her daughter don't fully trust her, or at least align with her beliefs. And I wonder if we're gonna see Perrin and Leeta again.
Yeah, I was really surprised that Perrin didn't figure into this episode at all. Leeta, I don't think we'll see again at all, but I kind of hope we see something from Perrin in the final arc. I was hoping he would play a part in Mon's extraction from Coruscant. He would maybe redeem himself slightly, but it wasn't.
I wonder if the ISB is
oh god, that would be horrible. There was apparently a scene cut where she stops off at Chandrila first and talks to him, but they cut it, I think, because of budget or whatever, or like timing. But it would be nice to see. I mean, I've got my own thoughts about where we could maybe see Perrin's future develop. But Erskine, he's a really cool character. Piero Nelmi, the actor who plays him here, he really, again, does a lot of great work, like just with his face, with his his emotions, like when the truth is outed and she comes back and she says, I don't think I've ever felt this betrayed. He's so crestfallen. There's a kind of like self-loathing there of the fact that he has had to work for Luthen. He hates that he's had to betray Mon in this way, because he does genuinely seem to like care for Mon and want to be there for her in a way that like we've seen few characters behave at. So it instantly endears him to us as the audience. Yeah. Like, even though we've seen him in Rebels and sort of had a sense of, he's this sort of friend of Mon's, I felt really connected to him because he genuinely could understand her heartbreak at this. And like, I love the kind of like anger in his voice when he's talking to Claire over the comms of like, this is, she threw me out, basically indicating this is your fault. That and all that kind of stuff. He's great. Erskine Samaj, I'm a fan.
I love that he's won me over. Tiny character from Rebels and just made him into like a really great minor Star Wars character in just a couple episodes.
Yeah, like him finding the bug in her office as well, and her smashing it as well with that ornament on her desk. I was like, yeah, Mon.
Hell yeah! Like you get to see just the buildup of like when she knows that she has to give this speech. Like the buildup is great. And I also loved.
Oh, sorry.
I was gonna say, I also loved that scene at the beginning of the episode with Clea and Cassian.
Yes.
I love that I didn't realize at first, but that like when they bring Mon back to this place and when they bring when Cassian's talking to Clea, that it's all taking place at the old apartment on Coruscant.
Yeah,
And I thought that was such a great detail that that was the safe house they chose there. But there's just so much like conflict, and Cassian just at this point he's just one more mission and then I'm gone. And we see that just be once we know from the first episode that Bix seems to think that Cassian has a very important role to play in the Alliance, that she can't let that happen. And it's heartbreaking. It's so tragic. I will get into that scene when we get to that scene.
Me too.
Is just you can just tell that he's so like, oh, I'm out. It's like, is that what you really want? Like again, there were so many great moments there, but once we get to the actual scene and the build up of again, like, oh, you'll tell her that you have friends everywhere, and we keep continuing on from that.
And there's the tension as well, and I really like the brief role that Clea and Luthen have in this, because you said before about the scene in the shop. I love the way Elizabeth DeLisle plays that scene with Clea's usual steeliness, her almost kind of like judgmental tone of like, let me guess, it's too much, you're tired, that kind of stuff, like her almost trying to presuppose his argument. And then when he says, I want to make my own decisions, and she says that great line, I thought that's what we were fighting for. And the mask kind of slips then, and the steel that she often throws out, you see like a flicker of emotion. Again, Clea, I love Clea. Clea is a great character.
She's like become one of my favorite characters this season.
And there's the moment of genuine like concern where she's wanting to get Luthen out of Coruscant, and I wondered, are we going to see like Luthen finally just torch the shop and just like vacate the place? But that's apparent. That might be for the next arc, the final arc, I think. But we got that really cool scene of the three of them interacting together, and I think this is a great time to call back to the Force Healer story moment in the episode 7, because Luthen says to Cassian after Cassian repeats the same line to him about, oh, I make my own decisions, and he goes, do you? I'm starting to question that. You were there. Every time I needed you, you were there. Narkina, Ardani, Narkina, Ferrix, Mina Rao, Sinar, Ghorman. It's a great, again, I love the line because it's a great way of tying all of the like different events of like the past 4 years together. But it's also referencing the fact that the Force is working through these characters. It is, it's lost the Jedi. It doesn't have the Jedi anymore to act as its arbiters, like fully, the way they did in the prequels and like prior eras, like the High Republic. So it is manifesting through these characters who are like much more like down to earth than these fantastical figures of myth, working and burning their own futures to make a sunrise they'll never see. It's really a great evocation of the Force. The evocation Absolutely. Is a word I was looking for earlier, but like, I love that kind of exchange. I really am. I'm fascinated to see where Luthen is going to end up by the end. Yeah, I think he's doomed.
I don't know. I think he's doomed, but I mean, he could live. It'll be very interesting to see how that plays out. I would like to see Clea lived through the New Republic era, though. That would be.
I could see Clea. Clea, I could see surviving. I'd be very surprised if she died.
People seem to think she's doomed, but I would like to see her survive, and that's not just because I love the character.
Yeah,
that moment was great. I love that, like you said, it brought us back to all those other arcs, really connecting them together. Which is, I think, the one of the great things about this episode is it finally brings together Cassian and Mon's plots throughout this entire series, bringing them together. And it's kind of crazy that like we got 3 episodes left, and like they finally had them meet in this episode, and we finally bring those plot lines together in this episode.
Oh, when she walked through the door and he's there to greet her and he says Senator, I did a little squeak. I was like, this is so cool. They're finally on screen together.
Like, I have friends everywhere, and then just the look on her face.
And I was like, yes, this is so cool. This is really awesome. And again, we're jumping ahead a little bit, but I love the way Cassian is with Mon. He's the way he is friendly. He doesn't, he's not curt or like cruel in a way that other characters might be like, oh no, I'm just here to get her to this point A, point B. He does everything he can to make her trust him. He says, your cousin Vel is a friend. And I love that Molly's skeptical of that. She's like, anyone could say that. But he's like, no, we know each other. We're at Aldani,
we're the
I know
last survivors of Aldani.
And he's like, I know Luthen can be hard. I know he's a bit of a bastard, but like, I've got your back here. I'll be right behind you. I really like that. It's that kind of stuff that has warmed me to Cassian as a character. How he is, without realizing he is really good at this rebel stuff. It's really cool.
Absolutely. It also gave us this screenshot, which is one of my favorites. That was almost my archives pick this week.
It's a great meme, but I also love the acting there because again, we love Mon Mothma and she's so tough, but I love the way Genevieve O'Reilly plays those scenes because of course she's been a senator. She's not used to this kind of violence. This kind of violence that we have seen. Boom. Yeah, I saw someone say that apparently Cloris might have been coming to help her, that he might have got disillusioned with the Empire, which I didn't pick up on.
I didn't think so.
If that's the case, then that would be horribly tragic.
The whole episode, dude's like, where the hell is she? She's been in the Senate this whole time. I mean, like literally reporting to the ISB people.
I mean, I was just like, yeah. I was just like, yeah, take him out. Like, like you said, it's like the Cassian's just like, yeah, what's his name? And I love that Mon's just immediately like, no, he's an ISB pawn. And Cassian's like, yeah, Cloris. Cloris, we found her. Who are you? Like so quick on the draw with the Briar. I'm actually sad that he's going to lose that at some point because I love that gun.
It's such a great. It's got such a great sound too.
Oh, I love it. I've loved that thing since the Dark Forces Jedi Knight games. I tweeted earlier. I have a crackpot theory that he'll have to like overload it or something to kill some stormtroopers, and that's how we get like the charge like beam from the games. That would be cool. That'd be a cool way to say goodbye to it. We got fan service, but at what cost? But yeah, just to like close out my thoughts on like the Mon Andor meme. I think what I love about it is it shows that Mon is like so unprepared for the violence that is coming from like the on the ground rebellion fighting stuff, and I think it really I love that she is like shocked by it, but she's persevering through it. Like, she's shocked when Cassian winds up like having to shoot the ISB plant. But it's just, it's all really cool stuff. And, I love, again, there's a great exchange. She's like, I'm not sure I can do this. And Cassian says the perfect thing he can say to her in that moment, which is welcome to the rebellion.
Oh, so good.
Like they're running through the checkpoints with the stormtroopers. I was like, yeah, fugitive stories are some of my favorite stories in fiction. I'm one of my favorite films is Enemy of the State with Will Smith and Gene Hackman. I love characters being on the run, outfoxing authoritarian regimes, and this was like great stuff. Like them just like just keeping just a tiny bit ahead of the stormtroopers, closing all the checkpoints down. Again, another Obi-Wan reference. We saw those checkpoints on Fortress Inquisitorius.
Yep.
Just a singular one, checking people in, and now they're all over the Senate. It's just a really cool mark of the Empire's increasing oversight.
Let's get to the Senate stuff. And it wasn't just Mon's speech; it was everything surrounding it. Before we get, but the tension of once we know which one of Bale's group is the ISB plant, of her finding the one guy and shooting him down. And then as Mon's speech is happening, those two workers stopping them from getting into the Senate chambers.
New Glove Shitos. They're great.
Exactly.
I love them.
They have such glove designs too.
Yeah, with the goggles on the one on the left. Yeah.
And then the ISB trying to shut down the feed and they're unable to get it in time. But this speech, man, was so damn good.
All timer. I was literally going oh my god, so many good dialogue. Like you've talked about like dialogue like rattling around the head and stuff. I have had in my head since watching the episode that line, the death of truth is the ultimate victory of evil. Like the minute she said that, I mean, I was already getting excited, but like chills, full body chills, really, because man, that is such, we talked about it before with like the Ghorman Massacre and stuff, but this series has been so like close to the ground in terms of like understanding the kind of like perils we face nowadays. And that speech, again, written 2 years ago, before the full scope of like misinformation was really hitting us, like the scope of misinformation on the internet, you know, people actively lying to sway political opinion and stuff. It really has hit home in a big way. And I really love that this speech just, again, it's so in universe, it's so in character, but it's really like pushing, it's really hitting the nerve of like politics in a really resonant way. And I love everything about that speech.
So many edits of that Death of Truth like moment and that line on Instagram, just quotes and edits and videos and stuff. This also brings me to Alex Damon of Star Wars Explain's wonderful review he did, where, you know, Star Wars has always been political, but Star Wars fans at some point stopped listening.
I love that man for doing that video. That was like, I'm so glad that someone with his influences has put that video out there and said the thing that we all should be saying, that Star Wars has always been political. The ideals that Andor espouses, the ideas that it is interested in, are the same ideas, the same convictions that George Lucas wanted to impart.
Star Wars has always had this message since A New Hope. Yep. And again, George has never been shy or subtle about what his influences for the Empire, for Palpatine, for the Republic have been over time. And a lot of which has been, you know, the United States. You know, the Nixon administration was in the Vietnam War, and the prequels were very much, you know, critiques of the Iraq War at points. You know, the "if you're not with me, you're my enemy" is straight from Iraq War talking points, and very post 9/11 feeling there. But again, people like to pretend that George was never political and that he would be on the side of these right-wing nuts that are in this fandom. But no, he wouldn't. And he definitely does not stand for all this shit that you try to spew out there when it's stop trying to make it political. Or the people that will like honestly will watch these episodes and will be, it was great, but like, why are you trying to put politics in this review? Like,
I have to shout out
straws. Like, dude.
I have to shout out Mads, who we both follow on Twitter, for
the
that
one that the guy that thought it was it's an allegory for January 6th.
And she's like, honey, no. I mean, you know, we all know that if he hadn't like pissed off because he was crying over like his cars like just getting damaged, we all know Elon Musk would be like tweeting some shit about like, Andor is like, the woke mind virus has infected Star Wars and it's poisoning everything. You know, but you know, because people have actually started trashing his cars, he's like, he's away and we don't have to worry about him anymore for a time anyway.
We'll see.
That's a relief. But yeah, we'll see. But like, to go back to the speech,
refreshing to see so many of these ideals just be spread throughout the community since these episodes, and be like, yes, this is important. And the fact that like this is how you know it's fiction is the fact that Mon said stuff that like our regular politicians won't say during this stuff, like outright labeled the Ghorman Massacre as a genocide.
Oh wow! Like when she said, again, you know, like that, and again, this was written 2 years ago, and there's even a line where you can hear the Senate, the dissent in the Senate increase, and she has to say, "Yes, genocide." Yeah, like
I thought the fact that the whole and you just show how far gone the Senate is. The fact that the whole Senate is just booing as this speech is going on, and like again. This it was a very heroic moment because like Mon had her like, is Genevieve gonna get the Luthen monologue from season 1 moment in the season? And hell yes, did she do?
She did. I mean, I've said about the one line, but there's also the line, you know, when the truth is ripped from our hands, we become vulnerable to the appetite of whatever monster screams the loudest. And again, that's like so perfect with our current politics of people just yelling and angrily sharing these hateful ideas about like scapegoating different communities because it will buy them political favor and get them places like the White House. You know, but like it's such a good speech, and it's so, you know, Genevieve O'Reilly. I can't say enough good things about her. She's been one of my favorite actors to work on this show. She's done such an amazing job at like highlighting Mon Mothma's vulnerabilities, but also showing just the power of her voice, the power that she has. You know, she said, like, I love the detail that they were gonna originally just have snippets of the speech in the episode to like build up to, and then she read a bit of it and she was like, she came to Tony Gilroy and said, you got to do the whole speech. I really want to do the whole speech. And he's like, you know what? I'll do it. I'll write the whole speech. And it's like, again, this is another example of like, we don't need to be restrained by canon here. We, you know, again, this is like some of the best dialogue we've gotten in Star Wars in terms of like just really like layering on like interesting political themes, current stuff that resonates with us because of what we're all experiencing online and in real life. So to not to throw that away because of like, oh, it doesn't fully line up with what we saw in like one episode of Rebels, given that this episode goes out of its way to reference Rebels anyway.
Yeah,
I feel like that should be a fair compromise to make.
Yeah, and people have pointed out that one thing that they do a lot in Rebels is show that the Empire doctors a lot of footage. Like every time Palpatine shows up in the Senate, they doctor that. So of course,
see it.
If they're frantically trying to shut this down, they would cut out, you know, all the really damning parts from Mothma's speech and change the dialogue.
I was cackling watching the ISB try to shut it down, and they couldn't do it. That one dude is like running through the building, desperately trying to like shut things down. And I love the timing of like her just like pausing before she says Palpatine's name. The monster that will come for us all soon enough is Emperor Palpatine, and then the power shuts off. It's so good, you know.
So good.
And again, we were talking about Bail Organa earlier. I've got to shout him out here because, you know, I love the way he operates here. He uses every bit of doctrine that the Empire has used to try and suppress senators speaking. He's like, oh, well, you know, no, this article here, this article states that we can actually do this, and you use the word emergency. I was like, I love the knowing tone in his voice of like, you know, multiple times he referred to it as an emergency, and as there's been no objection from the floor, it's just so good. And again, this is not the kind of stuff that you could get, this is not the kind of emotion, the kind of delivery you could get from a deep faked character, which again is why recastings are necessary in the event that you can't get the original actor back. It's just a necessary thing, even if it is something, even if you'd prefer the original actor to be back, which we both would. It's a necessary thing in terms of like production and stuff. Like, and it's
fantastic
necessary
in these episodes.
Exactly.
So, like, once we gave him a chance, we're like, oh yeah, no, this was the right call. If we couldn't have Jimmy, I'm glad that it was Benjamin Bratt in these scenes because he was excellent.
I'm going to be so interested if we see Bail on Yavin, given that he is briefly in Rogue One, played by Jimmy Smits there, of course. But it'll be interesting if we see him there. Like, I'm interested to see what the Yavin leadership is going to be like there in the final arc. I mean,
because we see Dodonna is mentioned, we don't see him in these episodes. So, like, the only one we see so far is Draven. So it's probably going to be like Draven, Vel, Mon, and Cassian, and then maybe Bail or Dodonna would be my guess. And you know, we don't see some of those characters in Rogue One, so it's like, how many of them are gonna die?
Oh, Val, I'm concerned for Val.
Yeah, I mean, some people have said if they, you know, retcon it so that she was on Scarif, like later on,
they had to retcon that Mon Mothma wasn't on Yavin because she's not on Yavin in A New Hope. They said she got evacuated. So, you know, there could be excuses made for Vel and other characters potentially. But yeah, the way Andor operates, it could go either way, really.
Honestly, yeah. But getting to fully the scene with Cassian, I loved how immediately shit hit the fan with that rogue agent, where she's immediately like, oh, this is an arrest, this is an ISB arrest, and Cassian, like, Erskine helps out, and Cassian just immediately boom.
Cassian's cool as a cucumber. Like, he's like, I love that she's like pointing the gun, screaming at people, thinking she can intimidate him, and he's just standing there cool as a cucumber. waiting for his moment, and then Erskine gives him the moment perfectly, like yelling, "She's a rebel spy!" And like, I love that Cassian just responded so quickly. And again, great little redemption for Erskine, like just
Absolutely.
stepping in there, thinking quickly, and then basically holding everyone at bay so that Cassian and Mon can escape. It's really great. And again, we said about it last week with the Coruscant scenes. Great use of location shooting. The area where Cloris meets his end was like, it was fantastic. And I love the building that Mon Mothma is like practicing her speech at, where she meets Luthen. They've done such a great job of making, as I said last week, of making one of the more CGI heavy environments in Star Wars that almost felt a little like far away and not as down to earth. They've made it done an incredible job of making it feel tactile and real, which is such a crazy thing to say about an ecumenopolis. It's like, how do you make that work? But the location shooting, the buildings they've scouted out, it's fantastic. Oh, and hey, again, if you've seen our Twitter, Andrew has highlighted that location where Cloris meets his end has been used for Doctor Who.
Yep. We get a location Who watch this episode.
We got a location Who watch, exactly.
But
Peter Capaldi's final season, to be exact, episode 2, I believe.
Once we get to the safe house on Coruscant, and we see all the characters together, and we see Clea let them know that Luthen made it back safe, and we see Will again, which I thought was just a great touch.
And Drina, they both made it. Drina's on Yavin now. That's crazy.
That is crazy. But I was glad to see that they made it out alive. Like you said, I thought they were both donezo.
I'm bumping my concerns about Will to the final arc now.
Absolutely. But once we see, so we need Mon to go to Yavin separately, which means Cassian gets back there. They bring Wilmon back to Yavin. Draven's like, "Oh, do you want to watch the speech?" It's like, "Oh, I already heard her talk."
I got to see the good stuff.
Yeah, goes right back to Bix.
Can I mention the they want to rewrite the storyline, because I found that really funny. I immediately, when I heard it, I was like, "Oh, cheeky." Like, just I love that it's like kind of getting at the themes of, like, Cassian is the unsung hero of the rebellion because he has to do the dirty work that the other characters can't really be seen doing. He doesn't get the plaques and the medals and the thanks that he really should be getting for, like, doing that hard stuff, like, having to shoot people indiscriminately because of protecting Mon, and we
really
get that lovely
to the everything I did for the rebellion line,
and we get that lovely interaction with him and Mon Mothma just before he leaves with the three of them, where, like, she says, "I don't know how to thank you," and he says, "Make it count." And again, it shows Mon's personability, that despite her grand status and her, like, positioning in the rebels, she cares about every rebel in the alliance. Like, anyone who's read Lost Stars, she has a great scene in that with one of the main characters. That was kind of the moment, the genesis of me starting to kind of be like, oh, I can kind of see the appeal a bit with Mon Mothma, and before Andor really broke the doors down and made me like a firm Mon Mothma fan.
Absolutely.
But so as you were saying, you were hinting at, like, the thing that closes this episode out, which is
Cassian goes there. He tells Bix he's done. They can leave. They can go somewhere else. They can find somewhere safe.
And you could see it on her face. The minute he says that, Adria's face changes, and I was like, "Wait a minute, is she gonna leave? Is she gonna leave Yavin?" And it's and I can't describe the mixture of emotions that hit when I finally had it confirmed that she had in fact left Yavin, because there was the immediate reaction of, like, "Oh my god, she's gonna live. She's gonna outlive this series. She's gonna survive."
We're getting my Colleen the Star Wars story spin-off pitch that I've been pitching for 3 years.
We could very well get it. We could very well get it. However, it was also incredibly heartbreaking
The minute they cut to Cassian waking up and Bix wasn't there, I went, "Oh no, oh no." And then we cut to her video message, which is just the most sad, heartbreaking thing I've ever seen. A lot of people are like, "Oh, it recontextualizes a lot of Rogue One." I don't think it necessarily changes the Jyn Cassian dynamic, but it definitely, there's a lot of lines in this speech by Bix that make Rogue One hurt so much more.
I'll
Story
find
time here,
you.
folks. There are very few moments in Star Wars that have made me just immediately go from dealing with emotions to boom, tears flowing everywhere, uncontrollable. There are definitely moments in Star Wars that have made me cry. It's not every time, but like sometimes Order 66 will get me. Sometimes the end of Revenge of the Sith will get me. There was that bit at the end of Part 6 of Obi-Wan that got me. Luke in TLJ was the first time I saw it, I cried because I was not expecting it, and it got me. It wasn't like Han Solo in The Force Awakens where I kind of knew it was coming, and it was just the shock of just like, oh my god, Han Solo just died. It was like, no, they're actually killing Luke Skywalker. However, I've told this story a couple times. When COVID first started, I was going through my rewatch or my first watch of Star Wars Rebels, and I got to Jedi Knight, which is of course the episode where Kanan Jarrus dies. Spoiler. And even though I had known everything that was going to happen in that episode already, I was fully aware of what was going to happen, the episode, the plot, everything by that point. That happened. The episode cut to credits, and I immediately just uncontrollably sobbed for 5 minutes. It was like, I haven't had something like that happen to me since then. I've cried at things since then, but it was just like, it hit me hard. And nothing like that has hit me like that in Star Wars since then. And then Bix said, I will find you. And immediate tears.
I think the thing that like breaks my heart the most about this whole like sequence and this whole speech that Bix gives, performed beautifully by Adria Arjona, like the tears that she's holding back, like whilst giving the speech, the fact that it's through video, which is perfect because, a note would have been great, but like getting to see her face as she's having to deliver these lines is fantastic. But the thing that breaks my heart the most about this is that she believes in Cassian so much. She thinks he's unkillable. She thinks like it's the kind of thing where it's like it's such a risk that she is taking, like essentially abandoning him so that, leaving him to the rebellion. But she believes in him so much that she thinks he can deal with anything. She knows he is so vital to the rebellion, that he has such a purpose to play in freeing them from the Empire, that she thinks that he can weather any storm. And it's true in a lot of ways, but it's also got that heartbreaking tragedy of the fact that he will give his life on Scarif alongside Jyn, Bodhi, and so many others, to get those Death Star plans to Princess Leia and set up the original Star Wars movie. There's that heartbreak there, knowing that she won't find him in the way that she intended. But like, it's a deeply moving scene, and I have to say, like, as much as it would have been probably easier to just to kill Bix off, maybe, and that explains what happened to her, I do really appreciate the fact that they didn't do that and they went this route instead, because it was a much more thoughtful way of doing it. And I just don't really see how killing her off in any way wouldn't have felt retrograde.
We were wondering last week and really this whole season of how they would get across having Bix not be in Cassian's life to where that relationship with Jyn and that bond with Jyn works as well as it does in Rogue One.
100%.
We were like, if Bix were to die or leave, like right at the end of the last arc, it would be like, well, I mean, this dude's going to be mourning like the whole time. Like it wouldn't make a lot of the events of Rogue One.
He'd be on the warpath. He'd be on the warpath. Exactly.
Especially because how we see him react to and how protective he has been of Bix in this season.
Yeah.
So for this scene to happen, I was devastated. But it was also like, this is the birth of Cassian Andor, rebel leader, and it's coincided with the birth of K2SO at the end of the episode.
It's like, you know what, they knew like we're giving you this like huge emotional mixed bag of like Bix surviving but having to leave. It's like but so we're gonna toss you a bone here. We're gonna give you K2 at the very end.
We get Melshi, we get Vel and a really cool jacket.
You lost your girlfriend, but you get Alan Tudyk as a consolation prize.
And that scene of Cassian just running back over to the hangar on Yavin. Same shirt that he wears when he dies in Rogue One in that scene.
Oh no, I didn't even know that.
Yeah.
Oh no.
People pointed that out to me.
That's so sad.
It hurts so much, man.
Oh, like
so, again, this was such
Bix lives, but my heart still hurts.
I know. And I'm wondering, like, are we gonna see her in the next arc? And I feel like Jake and I were talking, and Gilroy has said, "Hey, literally, like, the show ends with Cassian going to the Ring of Kefrene. It's like, what if that happens, and then we cut to after Rogue One, and it's Bix,
and she's gone back for B2.
Oh well, I can only hope. I can only hope, man.
I don't know. Like, there's a part of me that would really love if they just announced afterwards that they do that. You know, it might not happen, but I would love a spin-off about Bix. You know,
I think we're getting something. Maybe not a show, but we're getting something focused on Bix within the next couple of years.
I mean, because, you know, like, she's been a great character. We obviously love her, obviously, and would love to see more of her.
Oh, yeah.
Adria,
that's how devastated I was, because I love this character so much. I'm like, is this going to be the last time I ever see her? And the fact that she made this decision herself, she made the decision for both of them.
She has agency in her final scenes in the show.
Knows that Cassian is too integral to the rebellion for him to just give it all away for a life that the two of them can have.
And I almost forgot, actually. I actually had almost forgot to add this on. I think a really important thing is, like, you know, that is why we needed, in a lot of ways, her arc from the first 3 episodes with that Imperial officer, because in a lot of ways, she is so tempted to stay with Cassian and potentially even retire. Like she said, like, oh, I couldn't do this in person because you would talk me out of it. And I've been thinking about this for a while. She literally experienced on Mina Rao the cold, sobering fact that the Empire, you know, as tempting as it would be to hide and just live out their days trying to stay away from the Empire, eventually the Empire would find them and try and visit violence upon them in some way, shape, or form. So it definitely, I feel like so much of the stuff we have seen, both of her healing from her trauma, but also knowing just how ever-present the Empire is, it all feeds into this decision for her exiting Cassian's life perfectly. And I would love to see a continuation of this in some way. Like, you could call it Kayleen, the Star Wars story, or you could just say that, oh, you know, she and Cassian did get married, so technically it's Andor season 3, that kind of stuff. You know, Adria's been a revelation in this series. She's a rising star. She's done stuff like Hitman and, you know, the Blink Twice movie. She's, you know, her profile has definitely risen, and she's been open and honest about how much she loves this character. And, you know, she apparently has a Bix tattoo that's half finished. And she even had a great pitch for what she would like to see Bix do. She said, I'd love to see her go back to Ferrix. And I immediately thought, oh, cool. So you could have like a scouring of the Shire type thing, like in Lord of the Rings, where they go back and their home's all like pillaged and there's a villain there. Like maybe she goes back to Ferrix and there's like an Imperial warlord there and all that kind of stuff. And it'd be a great opportunity.
I would really love that. You know what else I would love? And it's kind of similar to what we just saw with Barriss last year. But if she were to become a Force healer, because she seemed to have some kind of connection with that Force healer on Yavin.
Honestly, you know, I don't think honestly, Bix using the Force would, like, I don't think I could love the character more, but like her using the Force would be pretty baller.
It would be pretty baller.
Also, do you think the one Force healer, speaking of Barriss, do you think she's the one Force healer that Marva like hated years ago?
That would be funny.
She's like, I recognize you. You bombed the Jedi Temple.
God.
This is all on you. It's all your fault.
So we leave this arc, and it's crazy that we have we got 3 episodes left in the show, which is unbelievable to me. And it's like, I don't know what's going to happen. We know how it ends.
No idea.
But I have no idea what's going to happen.
Is going to go. Like,
so I'm gonna pitch you one question.
Go on.
And then we'll leave it at that, and we'll head out of here. because we have a bunch of things that can happen. A lot of characters that arcs need to be resolved. But obviously, we got to lead into Rogue One somehow. People have been pitching this or imagining this for years since the show started. Do you think we're going to get like a blink and you missed it cameo of Jyn Erso in one of these episodes? Because I think we're getting it.
I actually don't think we will. I think we might get a mention of it, but if she appeared, that would be awesome, and I would love it. I think we could. My thought for years has been that I kind of want to see Galen Erso appear a little bit, and we might see him give Bodhi Rook the shove to like go off to Scarif, because that would link up so well with Rogue One to see him actually talk to Bodhi and
I would love
interact
that
with him. I would love that personally.
I was thinking like, oh, they're going around a corridor and Jyn is on the other side, and the camera cuts that. But what I thought of recently, within the last week, is because of course when we first see Jyn in Rogue One, she's on that Imperial prison camp in Wabani.
Yeah.
And I was thinking who maybe Will or maybe one of the characters gets sent to that camp.
Oh,
who does the camera pan to? Jyn Erso. Because obviously
that
you
would
can't
be
have
cool.
her and Cassian meet.
That would be a
But I
cool way
think
to
if
like
she interacts with one of the other characters.
Yeah,
I think it would be really cool. So
that would be really
we'll
cool.
check back and see in a day to see if we were correct about that. But
we before we go though, we have to talk about K2's birth very briefly, if we can.
I loved it.
Yeah, I loved it too. I have to mention.
Somewhere?
I love the one rebel technician guy, the engineer, like just saying, "Oh, you'll hear a lot of blather about reprogramming, but that's nonsense. It's more of an engineering and wiring issue." And I felt like that's Tony Gilroy needling himself for his own dialogue in Rogue One. Like, yeah, what was I going on about with reprogramming? That's nonsense. I love that the guy was kind of offended by it, but it was such a cool scene. Noises that came, and the fact that it was all it was such a almost violent thing, and it recurs to Terminator again, with the whole idea of this machine of evil being rewired to serve the good guys. And again, the minute Alan Tudyk's voice came out of that droid, I was so excited. I was it's perfect lines for K2 to enter the world. The first thing he says is hello to Cassian. The last thing he says is goodbye to Cassian. Feels.
I'm calling out of work tomorrow. I can't deal with this anymore, man.
If I've offended you, I apologize. If not, I'd appreciate you pointing that elsewhere. The motherfucker has only been alive for not even a minute, and he's already sassing people.
He's already sassing it up.
What a legend! What a legend!
Draven's already probably oh, God damn it, we made a mistake.
This goddamn droid.
So yeah, no, what an arc of Andor this was. It's going to be one that we're going to be thinking about for a long time to come. And it's crazy that 24 hours from now at the time of recording that this show will have wrapped up, which is, I still haven't processed it yet. I'm well aware that this is it, but I'm also well, it can't be it, right? But we're there already. And I think I'll be very interested in thinking once the show wraps up of should they have released it weekly or should they have released them in these batches of 3? Selfishly for the podcast, I wish it was weekly, but we will see how it goes and it feels once we have gone through this month and have finished with this show already. But goddamn, this was spectacular, and this was just something I've been looking forward to discussing for the last week, and I'm glad we were finally able to get this recorded before the finale dropped because, oh my God, I can't wait. But
slightly better than the recording of the penultimate Acolyte episode, where we were literally recording it as the final episode.
Were we recording it as the final episode was premiering?
I think literally was how that was happening.
Oh God, yeah, that's very typical of us. Recording a Celebration predictions episode as the first panel of Celebration is happening.
Just winging it, really.
Exactly. But yeah, no, it's late. I am all congested and I want to edit this and go to bed. So
Thank you so much
guys
for being here
joining
with me.
us.
Thank you so much for being here with me, man.
Of course.
I appreciate it.
But yeah, let's get going because we've talked about this a lot.
Yes.
Donovan, where can everyone find you?
You can find me on Twitter at Donovan Mead. You can find me on TikTok at Donovan McComish, Instagram at Donovan_McComish, same handle for Threads, and Blue Sky at DonovanMcComish.bsky.social. You can also find me on Star Wars Inner Galaxy Epic Confrontations, where I'm a question writer for our trivia matches against various Star Wars personalities. We've got some cool matchups coming. I've also written a Star Wars fan story called Scars of War. I need to post an updated link so that people could read it. It's in the wild there somewhere, but basically it's a fan story that takes place 5 years after Revenge of the Sith, and it follows a clone deserter named Blister who encounters a Order 66 survivor named Shar Kun. If you like Star Wars and processing of trauma and PTSD, then maybe check it out. I had a lot of fun writing it.
As for myself, you can find me all socials at Starlight Andrew, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and Blue Sky. You can find the podcast on Twitter at For the Repub Pod and on Instagram and TikTok at For the Republic Pod. Also on Blue Sky as well, For the Republic Pod.bsky.social. We are on the road to 100 episodes and 100 subscribers, so subscribe to our YouTube channel. If you're just listening to this on audio, would really help and help support the podcast. Good Lord, I need to go to bed. But I have something planned. Once we hit that 100, it's going to be fun, and I'll formally announce it probably during the Andor finale. I'm also working on some fun stuff for this podcast feed that I will hopefully have announced soon as well. So until next time, we'll see you guys later. May the Force be with you always, and we have friends everywhere.